Lord of the Mysteries, a time traveler in the Fourth Age. Chapter 76 to 100. Chapter 76, Tingen. 36 Zudaland Street. Blackthorn Security Company. When Shah Iyer arrived here, the three night watchmen from Backlund were enjoying their vacation, traveling and shopping in Tingen City. After all, their mission had been completed. He greeted Roshan at the front desk. Then he came to the duty room of Channy's Gate and saw Fry, Luo Yao lighting, Shijia Tiong, Cornley White and others playing cards. Is everyone else on vacation? Shah Iyer found a chair and sat down. The captain is processing documents, Leonard is off duty, and Klein is studying mysticism with old Neil. Shijia Tiong said enthusiastically. This is a lady in her 30s, with white hair and black eyes. She has an ordinary appearance but a very good temperament. Your hair is special. Shah Iyer took a closer look and it didn't look like it was dyed. Thank you. It actually bothered me in the past, but now I'm used to it. Zhiga Tiong flicked his hair and said nonchalantly. Add me. I'll give you some good luck. Just leave after you lose. Don't waste my time. Shah Iyer looked at the card table and took out some coins. Come up. Cornley, if you want to become a regular employee sooner, you should study mysticism like Klein did. Ms. Luo Yao Lang, who seemed a little cold, took the initiative to make room for a seat. You guys play. Seenley smiled and went to old Neil to take a class. He has a very good personality. Shah Iyer sat in Luo Yao's seat and watched Conley leave. It seems like this brother died because he rushed too fast when catching the witch. Cornley is a trustworthy companion who never refuses to take on a case. Luo Yao Lai Ding said as he dealt the cards. I take back what I said before. Being too aggressive and rushing too fast can easily lead to sacrifices. When you have time, remember to persuade him to think more about himself and his family. Shah Iyer thought for a moment and said. He recalled that this buddy had a beloved fiancée, which made things even worse. It's good to be more stable. But you don't seem to be qualified to criticize Cornley, Mr. Maynard, who left the team alone. Zhiga Tiong's tone was somewhat teasing. The news spread so quickly. Did Leonard say that, or did Klein say that? It couldn't have been Captain Dunn, right? Shah Iyer asked while playing cards. Your captain said so. I can see that he really wants to teach you a lesson. Luo Yao said while staring at the cards in Shah Iyer's hand. I have the ability. Do you know what a secret praying person is? I don't know whether I can win or not, and whether it's dangerous or not. Shah Iyer threw out a few cards casually. You almost made our only fortune teller become autistic. Zhiga Tian said this and laughed. Everyone laughed, and Fry, who looked very indifferent, also laughed. After playing a few rounds, Shah Iyer lost all the change in his pocket. He looked at the two ladies and asked. I've paid the tuition, can I attend your occult courses? Of course, you are simply the best poker partner. Let's play cards together again in the future. Luo Yao Lang pointed to the right and smiled slightly, which was rare for him. It's money well spent. Shah Iyer nodded, stood up and walked towards the intersection where he came from, then walked towards the passage on the right. Shah Iyer came to the alchemy room of the night squad of Tingen. He knocked gently on the door and walked in after receiving a response. There are many long tables, beakers, test tubes, various chemical supplies, crucibles, and transparent crystal balls. The holy emblem of night and other mysterious items. Shah Iyer gave a thumbs up to this alchemy room that was both scientific and theological. Over there, old Neil, wearing a classic soft hat, was giving a lecture among the lit kerosene lamps with a wizard temperament. Seeing old Neil, Klein, and Seenley looking at him, Shah Iyer politely gestured for him to continue. He also listened from the side. The complexity of mystic knowledge lies in its categories. The carrier of knowledge is not text, but translated later. In fact, it is the various patterns, symbols and logos that contain power. The densely packed patterns in the form of mythical creatures are constantly changing. The Sequence 6 recorder of the gate path has an alienated brain that accurately records the corresponding patterns of each extraordinary ability. They only record it. After recording it once, if they want to reuse it, they either upgrade to a Sequence 2 Planeswalker or use the White Tower path. Not only did they have to record it, they also have to understand it. This truly valuable knowledge is not taught in ordinary mysticism courses. Most of what they teach is the identification of extraordinary materials, the use of clairvoyance, various precautions for ritual magic, the symbols and correspondences of various constellations. In essence, they are still serving the ritual magic of praying to the gods of faith. What extraordinary materials do the gods like as sacrifices? What flavor of essential oils do the gods like? What metal materials can better carry the power of the gods? What weather and what astrological environment can improve the success rate and quality of ritual magic? This is the result of the development of modern mysticism. Having a god above your head is safer and has good effects. Natural mysticism, a mystical ritual that leverages environmental forces rather than targeting a fixed object, has basically been eliminated. The effect is unstable, the success rate cannot be guaranteed, and the ritual is more complicated. If the star realm were to be banned, most of the mystical rituals mastered by these extraordinary people would be useless. The remaining half is in the spirit world. What Old Neil is now explaining is the various symbols corresponding to the 7 gods and the use of astrology. Shah-Ir listened quietly. He felt that the ritual magic directed at the 7 gods was relatively simple. Even if you are not a night watcher, as long as you have the faith in the goddess of night that a true night believer should have, that is enough for Miss Justice. Then if you pray to the goddess of night for power through mystical rituals, it will most likely be successful. The automatic response of the 7 gods should not be that smart. At most, we can screen their faith. There will be basically no problem at a normal level. However, the number of wild extraordinary people who have the courage to do so may be limited. Among the various parts of the human body, the bones correspond to the goddess. Old Neil talked for a while, then stopped to drink a sip of tea, looked at Shah-Ir and smiled. Don't you have a combat scholar teaching you? Do you still need to come to my place for class? Because she taught me, I also had to be her sparring partner, and her fighting skills were getting better and better, using my training. Shah-Ir spread his hands and did not greet each other in the face. That was the last of the friendship between colleagues. You even saved money on hiring a fighting coach. Klein said with some envy. He will have to spend money to find a teacher to teach him fighting skills, and he doesn't know if the money can be reimbursed. You won't think so when you're slammed to the ground by a lady wolf who's smaller than you. Our relationship has not broken down yet. It was all thanks to me that I fell back on my backhand. Shah-Ir didn't know what this guy envied. A friendship that was one-sided would not last long. Do you think you can improve faster than a combat scholar? You should be gentle with ladies. You can make an exception during training. Did you lose all the change you brought with you? Cornley added, then laughed. Anyway, I had a lot of fun. Shah-Ir smiled nonchalantly. Is the training of Backlund's Nighthawks the same as ours? Klein felt that the Backlund diocese should have more complete infrastructure than the Night Slayer squad in Tingen. Basically the same. It depends on which senior you are interning with. Ms. Gray has a lot of experience, and she occasionally shares some knowledge with me. When it comes to occult rituals, we can't avoid the Morse Trappist order. This organization is very interesting. In the early days, they believed in an impersonal god. Although it was described as a god, it was more like an idea, a natural law, such as everything is a number. We all know that the essence of ritual magic is to pray for power. When the Moss ascetic order was first established, even many people who were not part of the organization were able to pray to this god for power and complete the occult rituals without restrictions such as church or identity. This is quite rare. At that time, the Moss Trappist order was also a very respected organization and had good relations with all the major churches. Shah-Ir led the topic naturally. Old Neil glanced at him with his cloudy eyes. Chapter 77, The Hermit's Blasphemous Card. No restrictions on identity and background. Can everyone pray for the gift of completing the mysterious ritual? Klein initially thought it was a good idea, as it was a great benefit for Beyonders. But I soon realized that if there were no supervision and restrictions, social order would be impacted, right? No wonder the Moss ascetic order has a bad reputation nowadays. Extraordinary powers should be used with caution and in a limited manner. As an official, Klein couldn't even imagine how much trouble that would cause. Is that a benefit? That means endless overtime work. This is a social problem. Let's get back to the occult. Another important reason why the beliefs of the Moss ascetic order were not rejected in the early days was that it was very convenient. Even novices who didn't understand the mysticism knew that if they wanted to have a good dream, they should pray to the goddess, and if they wanted to survive a shipwreck, they should pray to the Lord of Storms. If the machine in the factory breaks down and can't be repaired, maybe praying to the god of steam and machinery will lead to a miracle. Each god has his own authority. We perform ritual magic. If we pray to the Lord of Storms, then there is a high probability that it will not succeed. But the Moss ascetic order believes in the incarnation of spiritual numbers. Just like the spiritual world, it will not reject extraordinary people who have sufficient knowledge, or even ordinary people. Just like divination, it is not only the fortune teller who can do divination. This provided great convenience for the extraordinary people in the early churches. Even with the heavy history between us, I can imagine that it must have been an extraordinary and prosperous era. Shaw praised the early Moss ascetic order. It is really touching to see those pioneers who worked hard just to make a fortune as soon as possible for the hidden sages. Stiano works for the hidden sage. Rosal works for Stiano, and good people are indeed rewarded. It's really convenient. The two newcomers, Klein and Seenley, listened to the other newcomers chatter with great interest. Old Neil frowned and said, "There are records of this happening in the Moss Trappist order, but the order has now degenerated into a secret evil organization. The hidden sage they believe in is an even more dangerous evil god. Believe me, no Beander from the Church of the Righteous God would pray to such an evil god. As night watchman, you should be more aware of the possible consequences of doing so. Mr. Maynard, Ms. Gray should have warned you to stay away from things related to the evil god." Old Neil educated the three newcomers seriously. "Didn't you seek strength from the hidden sage? So I just regret that my only faith is the goddess." Shaw drew a crimson moon on his chest. "Praise the goddess. ×3. The same was true for the other three. I've been feeling lately that my title as a history graduate is fake." After learning some historical knowledge, Klein made a joke to lighten the atmosphere. "If your history books record the hidden sage, then the Backlund Education Department will be turned upside down. If ordinary people knew this, perhaps your history tutor would be more shocked than you." Shaw laughed. "Azek, the son of death, argues with other instructors at the university about the history of the Fourth Age. This is interesting to think about." Shaw was not just chatting. Although he did not open his clairvoyance, his inspiration was no different from clairvoyance. Shaw could easily sense the abnormality in Old Neil's mind. He walked a few steps to the other side and observed the equipment in the Nighthawks alchemy room. Old Neil didn't want to talk about this topic anymore, so he started talking about constellations again. He was in a bad mood, and Klein and Cornley noticed it. They thought that the older generation of Nighthawks didn't like the newcomers' frivolous attitude towards extraordinary, so they listened to the lecture obediently. Shaw walked to a divination star, as if looking in a mirror. With the reflection of the kerosene lamp, his super-high inspiration achieved an effect almost like astrology. He saw a pair of cold, indifferent, eyelash-less eyes behind Old Neil. Is this the hidden sage? Theoretically, the angel king who peeks into the secret paths of people should be able to see his peculiarity. Shaw blinked at those eyes, somewhat curious about the other party's reaction. If he sensed correctly, these eyes appeared when Old Neil mentioned the hidden sage. The hidden sage should have also discovered the peculiarity of Klein. He was very thoughtful not to mess with the fool. Shaw looked at the hidden sage, and wanted to order something, since this man was famous for his generosity. He simply took out a notebook and turned to the mysterious ritual recorded in Antigonus's notes. He showed it to those eyes and wanted to know if the hidden sage had any optimization plans. After reading the contents of the notes, the hidden sage, saw knowledge and did not mind sharing it. His eyes, which contained countless bright stars, blinked at Shah-Ayar, and an invisible illusory light rushed straight towards Shah-Ayar. Shah-Ayar did not hide either. He let go of his mental defenses and allowed the light composed of information to enter the island of his mind. The spiritual island of resentful souls. Shah-Ayar stretched out his hand, and the light did not disperse directly, but fell into his hand. This was pure information. He snapped his fingers, and the spell-like ability to transform into paper took effect. With paper as the carrier, these illusory information became safer to read. He took a quick look and found the modification plan proposed by the hidden sage to be very good. Of course, the best part was that the improved plan included a step of praying for strength from the hidden sage, which directly raised the standards and intensity of the ceremony. Thank you very much, this is very helpful. Shah-Ayar bowed to that gaze, and received a refined ritual magic without spending a penny. Where can I find such a good evil god? As for the pollution of the evil god, isn't it automatically scanned when I attend the tarot club every week? That gaze seemed to sense Shah-Ayar's friendliness, so it gave another illusory light afterward. This time, the knowledge did not cost Shah-Ayar any extra spiritual energy to create the carrier. This is a playing card. Shah-Ayar took it and took a look. Hermit was written in the upper left corner. The cover was not of Emperor Russell wearing a robe and holding a lantern, but a black ball with countless eyes. The black mass on the cover seemed to have life. Those pairs of cold eyes looked at Shah-Ayar, and the spiritual island of the resentful soul seemed to have encountered an earthquake and began to shake. It was like looking directly into the forms of some mythical creatures. The spirituality also began to disintegrate, as if it was about to be transformed into an information state. The fourth age. A certain elf scourge put down the work at hand and translated all the mysterious patterns that he saw into understandable mystical knowledge. Calculate how to use, transforming paper into usefulness, and transforming usefulness into paper, to stabilize the spirit that is about to decompose. With lightning-fast computing speed, the most suitable solution can be quickly given and technical support can be provided. The fifth era. Shah-Ayar's gradually illusory hands turned into a pair of white paper hands, and the gradual fading process was slowed down. The paper hands quickly turned back into their original hands. Through continuous changes, the impact of informatization can be offset. The vibration of the island of mind gradually stopped. His status is sufficient, and this small piece of knowledge does not exceed the scope of his cognition. His ability to comprehend and digest knowledge quickly enough to sustain the infusion of knowledge from the hidden sage, allowing Shah-Ayar to learn a little more about wizards. You are so generous. Shah-Ayar waved the cards in his hand towards the eyes that were always staring at him. He didn't hate the hidden sage. Praying to the evil god was risky. If you are given benefits but cannot accept them, then don't be so radical from the beginning. I like this gift very much. But that doesn't stop me from reporting you. After Shah-Ayar finished speaking, he closed his spiritual world and the gaze did not continue to linger on him. Chapter 78. The Simple Hidden Sage. In the real world, Shah-Ayar, with his back to Klein and the others, wiped the blood from his nose and refocused his mind on the island of his mind. The card of blasphemy. Shah-Ayar turned over the hermit card, without looking at the front of the card. Shah-Ayar didn't know who held the real hermit's blasphemy card. He felt that since it was in Bernadette's hands, there was no reason for Russell not to leave it to his daughter. But this card, it's not appropriate to say it's fake. The blasphemous card made by the hidden sage may be more authentic than the one made by Russell during the Knowledge Emperor period. Even the cover is different. The cover of the Russell version of blasphemous cards is his own cosplay. It doesn't look dangerous from the cover. The cover of the hidden sage version of the blasphemous deck features the power of these evil gods. The effect of looking at the cover is not much different from looking at some mythological creature forms. Shah-Ayar didn't kneel because he had extraordinary talent. In the past, there was Heinesen Vincent, a mortal who dared to dream of the illusory projection of the real creator. Today there is Shah-Ayar Maynard, Who dares to look at a small bit of knowledge incarnation separated from the knowledge incarnation? Even a normal sequence 5 would vomit blood when seeing this. Change your form and hide this cover. Shah-Ir tapped the back of the hermit card. Under his feet, cracks appeared on the island of his mind. This is making a fuss. He was not seriously injured, except that the sealed vengeful spirit Steve lost half his life. He wouldn't be so foolish as to let down his mental defenses. Anyway, I still have a sealed object from the audience channel in my hand, so I can slowly repair it. I can say that I have made a lot of money this time. After Shah-Ir turned the cover over, the cover of the hermit's blasphemous card was blank. This card is indeed spiritual. He extended his spirituality, turned over the blasphemous card, and found that the information was similar to the information he had obtained after viewing the second blasphemous slate in the Fourth Age, except that the part about demigods was added. The anti-divination and anti-prophecy abilities are at the divine level, even true gods would have difficulty discovering them. If you are not afraid of death, and your spirit contains this hermit card, the angels can beat you up, but there is a high probability that you will be assimilated by the knowledge. It feels a bit like a path of grace. Credit card. Shah-Ir snapped his fingers, and a magic mirror projection appeared in his mind island. Shah-Ir, there was an earthquake on your spiritual island. The magic mirror asked. It's okay. A friend gave it to me. What do you think of it? Shah-Ir showed Erodes the hermit card in his hand. You are now a hidden follower. Erodes gave an answer that surprised Shah-Ir a little. I have a mother too. Shah-Ir burst out laughing. He can hear it. The small eyes on both sides of the magic mirror looked at the hermit card in Shah-Ir's hand. Whatever. Mythical creatures by nature don't care about that. Shah-Ir ignored the new pair of eyes that had appeared on the cover of the hermit card. His spirit left the island of his mind and returned to the real world. Stayed in the alchemy workshop with the secret follower for a while. Shah-Ir came to a lounge of the Blackthorn Security Company. He locked the door, slept with sealed object 3089 in his mouth, and repaired the cracks on the island of the resentful soul's mind. He dares to take this hermit card. The historical time he actually lived in was earlier than that of the hidden sage. That's the advantage. And the hidden sage is the simplest of all the great beings on earth. She is much simpler than the goddess of night. This is also one of the advantages of the time traveler's omniscience. If the time traveler has no background, he should believe in the hidden sage. It's much better than the deceptive suggestions such as shouting Leodoro, finding a monocle to wear, and choosing the witch path. Boom, boom, there was a knock on the door. Shah-Ir opened his eyes and slept for a few hours. He recovered quite well. He acted a little impatient, as if he had had a nightmare, and hurried to the door and opened it. The one knocking on the door was Klein. There had been no movement for several hours since Shah-Ir entered the lounge. Being a careful person, he came over to check on her out of concern. What's wrong with you? Klein was shocked when he saw Shah-Ir's pale face and beads of sweat on his forehead. Is this a recurrence of an old injury? It's not that serious, right? When Shah-Ir heard the inquiry, he was in a trance for a moment, and it seemed that the island of his mind was broken a little again, but his memory was backed up, so there was no problem. I want to see Captain Dunn. He grabbed Klein's shoulders with a very serious expression. Come with me. Klein was shocked by Shah-Ir's acting skills and did not dare to delay. He brought Shah-Ir to Dunn's office. Dunn in the office was a little confused when he saw Shah-Ir and Klein acting so impetuous, but he still asked calmly. Sure, Klein, what happened? Klein didn't know either. He turned to look at Shah-Ir and said, it's your turn. Captain Dunn, I followed Conley and sat in on old Neil's class with Klein. Afterwards, I found a rest room to rest for a while because I was exhausted. But I had a nightmare. This dream was very real. I saw a pair of eyes without eyelashes behind old Neil. Although the hidden sage is very good, the fool is more cost-effective, so Shah-Ir reported it directly. Then he continued to tear up Ince Zangwill's script. Anyway, Tingen only came once, so Ince had no chance to kill him alone. He must have gone with the Antigonus family notes and sealed artifact 2049. He died on the way, and there would be problems with the two sealed objects. The Church of the Night would definitely conduct a thorough investigation, and perhaps even investigate as far as Tingen City. What could Ince do to him? If he had the guts, he could send a meteorite down from the sky. Klein was shocked after hearing what Sha'ir said. He also remembered the pair of eyes he saw when he learned clairvoyance. He quickly said to Dunn, "Captain, I've seen it too. When old Neil was teaching me clairvoyance, he said it was a sign of ritual magic." "I see. You guys come with me." After listening to the two's discovery, Dunn stood up with a serious expression, took the two to an archive room, took out a stack of documents related to the secret peepers, and quickly flipped through them. The Night Slayer team in Tingen had the Mystery Pierce potion, and of course there were also precautions about the Mystery Pier issued by the Holy Temple. Dunn quickly found the archival records related to the illusory eyes, and his expression became particularly solemn. "Captain, what happened to old Neil?" Seeing that Dunn didn't say anything, Klein couldn't help but ask. "It's still unclear at this point. If what you said is correct, old Neil may have held a ceremony to pray to the hidden sage. He may have been contaminated by the hidden sage." Dunn raised his head and said, "I think Mr. Neil can still be saved. I am very familiar with this. It is based on intuition and experience. And what signs might appear in the early stages of a person losing control. I was forced to copy them many times," Sha'ir said as he took off the sealed artifact 3089 hanging around his neck. "Actually, if Mr. Neil was not so old, mentally decrepit, deeply obsessed, and spiritually out of control, nothing would have happened. Which secret peeper has not been noticed by the hidden sage? The Moss ascetic order was not wiped out." Chapter 79 Protective Custody. "Maynard, you're right. We still have time. It's a blessing in disguise that we can discover it in advance." Dunn smiled at Sha'ir. "Captain, what should we do now? Old Neil should still be in the duty room at this time." Klein was somewhat worried about old Neil, and at the same time he felt somewhat guilty. He had also noticed the abnormality at the time and had even complained about why he hadn't noticed it. "Don't worry, Klein. Come with me. Let's call old Neil and tell him to go to Channy's Gate together to count the extraordinary materials that will be needed later. Maynard, after the three of us leave, you tell the rest of the people in the duty room what happened, and then bring Fry to support us behind Channy's Gate. I need to borrow this seal that can soothe the spirit from you." Dunn made proper arrangements. He was not confused about whether it was a dream or reality at this time. He had never dreamed that old Neil was polluted. "I applied for this specifically to prevent myself from losing control. In the end, before anything happened to me, someone else used it first. Let's get started, Captain Dunn. Let's get it done early and eat early." Sha'ir smiled, made way and let the two go first. "I'll say thank you later. I will report your contribution to the Backlund diocese truthfully." Dunn nodded and hurriedly took Klein to trick old Neil. The captain's mind is still relatively clear now. As long as old Neil steps into Channy's, the emotions of the spirit will be soothed and smoothed under the suppression of the Gate of Channy's. He can also use the advantage of the terrain to drag people into dreams, so it will not be so easy to lose control. Klein followed Dunn, feeling a little nervous, and thinking about how to act more naturally. Although the acting skills of these two were not so good, old Neil's trust in Dunn and Klein made him ignore this and follow the two into the door of Channy's. If old Neil refuses to cooperate, Dunn also has a way. He can control the nightmare and drag it into the Gate of Channy's. Sha'ir counted the time and came to the night watchman's chess and card room again, the duty room. Zigga Tiong was writing her story, which was neither famous nor popular. Sha'ir walked closer to take a look. This lady with good temperament put it away somewhat embarrassedly. "Guys, I don't mean to interrupt, but you have a mission." Sha'ir told about old Neil's situation. These night watchmen took action. Done. Why? Boom. Sha'ir only heard a simple conversation and then the sound of someone falling to the ground. The old and frail Neil was ambushed by the young and strong Dunn and knocked down directly. Sha'ir's vacation in Tingen was extended for a few more days. Thanks to old Neil for his contribution. After all this trouble, done, Klein and other night watchmen were very busy. Shaw threw the sealed object 3089, silver spoon of the soul soother, and went to eat. When he returned to the Blackthorn Security Company, he also brought back a bag of bread. Maynard, you are so kind. Luo Shan at the front desk looked at the bread that Shaw brought back with surprise. She didn't go to eat because she was worried about old Neil. Relax, you should trust your captain. Shaw comforted the little girl and then returned to the duty room with food. Klein was also sitting here. He was touched when he saw the bread that Shaw handed over. This was not the hard black bread that could be used as a stick, but soft white bread. This considerate gentleman was simply an angel. How's it going? Shaw distributed food to others, then sat down and asked. Old Neil's condition is not serious, but for safety reasons, he cannot leave the Chinese gate for the time being. The captain and Fry are watching old Neil. They will wait until the support sent by Backlund arrives, and after a thorough inspection, they will restore his freedom. Quote, Klein said as he ate, it looks like he'll be staying in Tingen this week. Shaw nodded and continued playing for 2 days. Anyway, he was on paid leave and didn't have to help the Nighthawks on missions. Sunday, July 15th. In the morning, Shaw asked Congressman Maynard about the news about mineral financing in Severus County published in the Tingen City Honest Man's News. Mr. John Maynard chuckled and gave Shaw a look that showed he understood. This congressman did not believe the scam fabricated by Lenevis at all. This is a trap specifically targeting the middle class, trying to deceive the new party's parliamentarians, the next candidate for the mayor of Tingen. It's almost there. That's what you hinted at. After Shaw received the endorsement from Senator Maynard, he investigated Lenevis's interpersonal relationships and then entrusted the butler to send a banquet invitation to Lenevis's fiancée, Megos. The Megos family was quite surprised when they received the invitation, but after all, it was an invitation prepared personally by Senator Maynard's butler, so of course they couldn't refuse it. After a brief acquaintance at the banquet, Shaw invited Ms. Megos to his room. The girl was a very outstanding beauty, with a smooth forehead, long golden hair, bright big eyes that still showed determination and shyness, and her lips were tightly pursed, as if she had not made up her mind yet. Sit down and talk, don't be nervous. Shaw pulled out a chair for Megos, led her to sit down, and poured her a glass of red wine. Mr. Maynard. Megos's voice was clear and soft. Although she still felt a little uncomfortable, she was not as nervous as before. Ms. Megos, although I have already introduced myself, my hasty introduction was not serious enough. Let me introduce myself again so you can get to know me better. Shaw tapped the table with his fingers. Megos felt Shaw's seriousness, she hummed, and her hands under the table nervously grabbed the hem of her skirt. I have many titles. In addition to the identities I have already introduced, such as the youngest son of Councillor Maynard and a clergyman of the Church of Darkness, I also have a temporary position at the police headquarters. I think there's something wrong with the steel company your fiancé, Mr. Lenevis, is raising funds for. Shaw said bluntly. Anyway, he's leaving the day after tomorrow, so he might as well tear up Ince Zangwill's script one last time. What do you mean, Mr. Maynard? When Megos heard Shaw talking about her fiancé's steel company, she couldn't help but lift her hands from her knees to the table. Her aunt has invested all her savings in it, and her parents also plan to invest all their family savings in it after a while. If there was any problem with Lenevis Steel Company, it would be a devastating blow to their family. Ms. Megos, don't be nervous. Things may not be like this. I have no evidence, this is just my guess. Shaw advised Megos to have her own judgment. No, Mr. Maynard, I believe you, and I want to hear your opinion. Megos shook her head, and her trust in Shaw increased. Chapter 80, Ince's Cultivation. My opinion. As I said, I have no evidence, this is just a judgment based on experience. Do you still believe me? Shaw spread his hands. He really had no evidence, so he didn't investigate. Megos was a little confused. After all, Lenevis was introduced by her aunt, and was recognized by both her parents. He was an outstanding and excellent man, and he left a very good impression on her. It would be fine if Shah had some evidence, but he had no evidence at all. Even if he is the son of Councillor Maynard, and even if Councillor Maynard is likely to be the next mayor of Tingen, you cannot wrongly accuse someone without evidence. Mr. Maynard, I trust your judgment. Megos took a deep breath and put her fiancé out of her mind. It's not difficult to choose. Although I don't really care, it always feels good to be trusted. Cheers to you, Lady Megos. Shah raised his glass and clinked it with Megos's. What do you want me to do? After Megos put down her wine glass, she looked at Shah and smiled. To be honest, I haven't thought about it that much. After all, I'm not sure whether there is really a problem with Lenevis's steel company. But I also learned that many families invested all their savings, and even took out loans to invest in this steel company. If Lenevis Steel Company encounters problems, it will be a devastating blow to many families and will also tarnish the future development of Tingen City. Have you sent anyone to verify it on the spot? Shah smiled. He wanted to call Councilman Maynard an old fox. We sent representatives to the Honachus Mountains in Severus County to verify the situation and found no problems. Megos shook her head. The girl now doubted the truthfulness of Shah words. But she still chose Shah, even though she wronged her fiancé. Well, I don't want to see innocent families get hurt. After you go back, discuss with your family and deposit the gold list you want to invest in Lenevis Steel Company in this designated bank and set up a public account. Our Maynard family is a shareholder of the bank, and the bank will help you conduct a risk assessment. This way, there will be a mutual check and coordination between investors, banks, and steel companies. You don't have to worry about your money being deposited in the bank. If the steel company you invested in encounters any problems, your pounds will disappear on the train. What do you think? Shah stated the plan he understood from Senator Maynard's eyes. Originally, Congressman Maynard didn't care about this small steel company, but after his youngest son asked him about it, the congressman made the decision. This steel company, whether it has problems or not, will definitely have problems and will go bankrupt. This bomb must explode before the conservative mayor steps down, adding a stain to the former mayor's desire for re-election. The news also reported that it was Councilman Maynard who helped the middle class in Tingen City preserve their life savings, thus expanding their advantage in subsequent elections. This steel packaging company, which already had problems, is now bound to go bankrupt. The thief's path is sequence 8. Lenevis, even if he feels guilty now, he will definitely disappear with the money. What do you think? You just need to make this suggestion. You don't need to worry about anything else. Shah did not reject Senator Maynard's arrangement. The middle class in Tingen City managed to keep most of their savings, and many families were saved from breaking up. Councilman Maynard is raising the stakes for his mayoral campaign. Shah only needs to open his mouth and gold pounds will be deposited into his account. A win-win-win situation. Megos didn't know what Shale and Senator Maynard were really thinking. She just thought that the Maynard family also had their eyes on the mineral resources in Civil County and wanted to control her fiancé's steel company in this way. The other party said this, obviously very confident. The money of these retail investors is kept in Maynard's bank, so they will definitely make a lot of profit. The only risk is that her fiancé may lose control of the steel company. As a believer in the god of steam and machinery, Megos is somewhat disgusted by this kind of predatory behavior. I think your suggestion is very good. My friends around me have been worried about whether there will be problems with this investment. If they can keep their money in the Maynard family's bank, they will definitely feel at ease. Thank you for your help, I'll give you a toast. Megos raised her glass, smiling brightly and speaking in a gentle tone. There wasn't even a hint of disgust. She took off the engagement ring that Lenevis had given her and placed it on the table. Let us pay tribute to this beautiful night. Shah and Megos raised their glasses again, drank the third glass of wine, then put their arms around her waist and walked towards the bed. This lady's original destiny was to become a vessel for nurturing the offspring of the evil god, and she is an important character in Ince Zangwill's script. In order to ensure the smooth birth of the evil god's offspring, Ince also implanted some of the corpses of the descendants of the god of death that he had collected into Megos's body to ensure that the mortal could complete the conception with the projection of the god. Shah-Ir stroked Megos's smooth belly and felt a chilly breath. Oh. Ince Zangwill. Some room with red bacon. Ince Zangwill, with dark golden hair and a soft hat on his head, watched as he crossed out the lines in his script one by one. He picked up sealed object 008 writer's characteristic and began to compose a new script based on the original script, rearranging more coincidences to direct the ending of the story he wanted. The former Archbishop of the Church of Darkness was a very cultured man. Although he was very angry, he did not lose his temper. He snorted and started writing. He didn't think that things were beyond his control at all. In his opinion, his script just became more layered and profound. Others would definitely be furious when faced with this situation, but he is different. He has amazing talent and ability to control the situation. After I left, the church became increasingly unreliable, and all the secret prayer people started to join. Ince Zangwill sighed softly, feeling that the Church of Evernight would go downhill after losing him. People who pray in secret should just join the Aurora Society. These days anyone can believe in the goddess. Monday, July 16th, morning. Shah-Ir got up a little late. Megos was already dressed and sitting beside the bed, quietly waiting for Shah-Ir. Would you like to sleep a little longer? Shah-Ir rubbed his eyes. It was really comfortable to stay in bed. I have to go back later. Megos lowered her head and said with a blushing face. That's right. Close your eyes, Shah-Ir said as he looked at the blonde beauty. Megos raised her head slightly, her eyelashes trembling, but she still closed her eyes. Shah-Ir pulled out the hermit card, stuffed it directly into a ring, and then helped Megos put it on. Because the essence of the hermit card is knowledge, there is no need to consider the issue of carrying it. Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. And please support the author by link in description. Chapter 81 Born a Monster. Shah-Ir stuffed the hermit card into the ring that Megos had taken off last night, and then put the ring back on Megos. Open your eyes, Shah-Ir said while holding Megos's hand. Megos opened her eyes with some anticipation, but was a little disappointed when she saw that the ring on her hand was a gift from her fiancé. She looked at Shah-Ir resentfully and said nothing. Before the transition between the two parties is completed, please wear it for a while longer. Shah-Ir was quite polite in his speech. And then what? Megos pursed her lips and looked at Shah-Ir pitifully. If you feel comfortable living in Tingan City, then stay in Tingan City with your parents. If you want to visit Backlund, then go to the capital of Loan. Although there is nothing good about it, the atmosphere is not as good as Tingan. Shah-Ir stretched and said casually. I want to go to Backlund. Megos hugged Shah-Ir, buried her head in his arms and whispered. Her eyes were filled with longing for the land of hope, the city of all cities, Backlund. It's not an either-or choice. You will only know which kind of life is more suitable for you after you experience it. Of course, if you want to go to Backlund, I welcome you too. I wanted to open a factory in Backlund to produce masks, but I have to take care of church work. If you can come and help, it will be much easier for me. Shah-Ir felt that believers of the god of steam and machinery should be more open-minded in this regard. Can I really help you? Megos is a little confident and a little unconfident. But she really wanted to try. You're already helping me. Shah-Ir looked down at the ring that Megos was wearing. He would not come to Tingan again. Megos is Shur's last resort to interfere in Tingan City. Megos subconsciously blocked the ring with her hand. This is not glorious, and she also feels a little guilty. You just picked what you wanted, and we all know that. Maybe it's despicable, but I still think about it. It's that simple, isn't it? Shah-Ir said as he took away her right hand which was covering her left hand. When doing things, there are some things you want to do and some things you don't want to do. Morality only affects what you want or don't want. Since you want to do it, there is no need to deceive yourself. What's wrong with being despicable? I'm happy anyway. Yes, I suppose. Megos looked into Shah-Ir's deep eyes and she exhaled slowly. She still felt somewhat guilty towards Lenevis, and also blamed herself. But she really wanted to. She could not deceive herself, nor could she deceive the person in front of her, and she no longer concealed the ring on her hand. Although it was immoral, she chose to betray. Let's go have breakfast together. Shah-Ir touched her blonde hair, changed into some light clothes and walked out of the room. After breakfast, Shah-Ir asked Senator Maynard's butler to send Megos back. On a whim, he wanted to take a look at the underground trading market in Tingen City. Anyway, as long as it's not too excessive, Congressman Maynard can reimburse you for any purchases. I asked for the address casually while playing cards with the Nighthawks. When you lose money, everything you ask is simple. The Dragon Bar, Docklands. Since he was just strolling around, Shah-Ir was not in a hurry to go to the underground trading market behind the bar. He watched the boxing match with the usual crowd of drinkers. Although it was a fight between ordinary people, it was still quite fresh, and he even treated the winner to a glass of Southwell beer. After watching the boxing match, I entered a billiard room and the two referees inside looked over. Although Shah-Ir is a new face, beer is the passport here. He didn't want to drink the beer here, but he didn't mind treating the other party to tell him the secret door. Walk through several rooms in a row. He came to what looked like a lecture hall. There are many people setting up street stalls here, and Shah-Ir feels like he is visiting a temple fair. He doesn't have a very clear goal. Simply enjoy the joy of shopping. What to buy is secondary. He bought golden-edged sunflowers and aconite juice at a stall. These were auxiliary materials for the Sun Path Sequence 8 prayers. Then he continued walking, his spirit sensed something, and when he turned around, he saw a pale young man wearing a worn linen shirt, with a dazed look in his eyes and a half-asleep, half-awake madness. When he noticed Shah-Ir's gaze, he froze at first, then screamed, and huddled on the ground like a quail, mumbling about some monster. You, a half-sequence 9 monster on the monster path, said I am a monster. Shah-Ir looked at this guy speechlessly. He wanted to predict me like this. You're going to have a nosebleed, right? Am I that shameless? When the customers and vendors heard the noise, they just glanced at it and looked away, as if they were used to it. Quiet. Shah-Ir gently kicked the young man who was curled up on the ground. Admissal covered his mouth. Although his body was still shaking slightly, he did not dare to make any sound. This half-beyond person, the Night Watcher of Tingen City, the Punisher, and the Mechanical Heart, the 3 official Beander forces all knew about it. However, none of them had the potion formula for the monster pathway, not even Sequence 9, so they were not accepted into the official organization. After all these years, the problem hasn't solved itself. You're not lucky enough. Shaul denied Admithal's potential in the monster path. Stand up and follow me. He kicked the young man on the ground again and gave the order in a flat tone. It's just the Sequence 9 formula of the monster path. Tingen City doesn't have it, so how could the Backlund parish of the Church of Evernight not have it? Admissal's inspiration was high, which also meant that he was quite sensible. He silently got up from the ground and followed Shah-Ir. This time, passers-by took a closer look at Shah-Ir. But these people obviously have no interest in meddling in other people's affairs. Shah-Ir continued to stroll around, and when he saw someone selling elf flowers, he bought some. The essential oil blended with this flower smells very nice. After wandering around these stalls for a while, Shah-Ir walked into the trading room opened by the boss behind the underground market and saw a burly old man wearing a hood. Can I see your merchandise list? Shah-Ir asked as he sat on the chair prepared for customers. The old man glanced at him, drank his wine and said nothing. We are all in the same business. Shah-Ir drew a crimson moon on his chest. The old man frowned slightly. What an unfamiliar face. I took that monster away. He is yours to take care of after all. I am here to say hello to you. Shah is still very particular. Even if he doesn't say it, the boss here will know it. Backlund is here, right? This time the old man finally handed over a list. Chapter 82 Heinerson Vincent. I want a piece of brilliant stone. Shah glanced at the list and selected an extraordinary material that was somewhat useful. 450 pounds. The burly old man quoted a price. 400 pounds is about right. I don't really need it. Although it was Congressman Maynard who paid for it, he didn't have to buy it here. We don't have to sell it. The burly old man took another sip of the sweet wine. They weren't really selling it, they were just doing it for fun. What if some fool from the Church of the Eternal Sun comes to buy it from them? Understand. Shah nodded, turned around and prepared to leave. 400 pounds, and it's yours. The old man stopped Shah who was about to leave and said that although they usually didn't sell, they couldn't keep it that way forever. Shah completed the transaction with something similar to a check. He looked at the old man with strange eyes and said, "You are really flexible." He picked up his things and left the trading room, intending to take Admiser away from the underground market. Just by chance, Shah spirituality was touched again, and even Admissal next to him felt it. They turned around and saw a middle-aged man with brown hair and obvious dark circles under his eyes looking at them, followed by a girl with burgundy hair. Shah could sense that this gentleman's aura was somewhat evil, and somewhat tempting. This is the induction from the secret praying person. What a coincidence. Admissal was a little scared, but he was also afraid of Shah, so this time he didn't make a noise but just hid behind Shah. Ademissal, it seems that you are very famous. So many people know you. Shah smiled, pretending that he could not recognize that the person in front of him was a believer of the true creator, and put the blame on the innocent monster, Mr. behind him. He took Admissal to the other party's position. Mr. Monster did not say a word and completely shrank behind Shah. Gentlemen, how can I help you? Only after Heinerson Vincent confirmed that Shah was good-looking did his attitude become a little more enthusiastic. This amulet looks great. Where did you buy it? Shah pretended not to sense the corrupted aura from the other person, and his sight naturally moved to the amulet worn by the girl with burgundy hair. After a little thought, he guessed the identity of the little girl. Selena Wood, a good friend of Klein's sister Melissa. Shouldn't she be attending technical college today? My teacher made this for me. Selena Wood felt happy to see someone appreciating her amulet. She was supposed to go to school today. But because she rashly used the mysterious spell she had peeked at from her teacher's notes at the birthday party last night. He used the magic mirror to occupy the place and almost caused trouble. Fortunately, her good friend Elizabeth Klein provided help and she did not hurt her friends and no harm was caused. But she was also frightened by her own actions and felt a little uncomfortable. She was troubled for the whole night and asked for leave to find her teacher to admit her mistake. Instead of being angry, Heinerson Vincent gave her an amulet. She felt much better and came with the teacher to buy some materials and formally study mysticism with the teacher. By reading people's faces, Shah made a rough judgment. Isn't this Heinerson Vincent, who is planning to recruit you as an outer member of the Aurora Society? Then, can you please make me an amulet? I happen to have the materials here, and the price is negotiable. Shah smiled and said to Heinrich Vincent, "Of course, if you're in a hurry, we can rent a room in the underground market. Making amulets requires a quiet environment where you won't be disturbed. Or you can leave an address and we can make an appointment to do the transaction another day." Heinrich Vincent smiled. He actually wanted to give it away for free, but he was afraid of scaring the gentleman. Shah's pupils seemed to sparkle with anticipation, and he said to his dear third-class merit, "I will cover the rent of the room and the cost of materials, and will also provide you with a considerable amount of compensation. However, I have one unwelcome request. I would like to observe the process of making the talisman on site." Top 50. Heinrich Vincent estimated Shah's worth and quoted a price that he could definitely accept. "Make a deal. Admitsal, Find a place to hang out by yourself, I'll be back soon. Shah paid the money readily, said something to the monster, who was lowering his head behind him, and then took Einarsson and Selina to rent a separate room. Selina looked at Shah and Admissal strangely. The way these two gentlemen get along with each other is a bit strange. Judging from their clothes, the two of them didn't look like they should be socializing. She didn't ask any questions, nor did she question Einarsson's decision. She followed the two men and rented a temporary room. She originally wanted to help Einarsson, but the gentleman next to her was talking to her. Let me introduce myself, Bennett Maynard, a clergyman of the Church of Night. May I have the honor of knowing your name? Selina Wood. When Selina heard the sign of the Church of Darkness, she also said her own name, but her voice was not loud. It seemed that he didn't want to disturb Einarsson, who was preparing to hold a mysterious ceremony. Your parents must also be believers of the goddess. In Tingen City, the Selina Church of the Church of Darkness is the most famous building. Selina was also a saint during the founding period of the church. Shah watched Einarsson Vincent arrange the sacrificial ceremony while chatting with the girl beside him. Selina Wood was carefully observing Einarsson arranging the ceremony, but Shah's comparison of her with the former saints of the church still made it difficult for the little girl to fully concentrate. Our family are all believers of the goddess. She felt that she had been worrying too much before. This gentleman might just be interested in mysticism and not wanting to steal its knowledge, so she responded in a low voice. Can I see your amulet? Einarsson over there is already whispering something. Great Creator, your devout believer. Shah is still trying to steal the amulet from the little girl. Of course, the amulet made by Mr. Einarsson is very good. Selina took off her amulet and handed it to Shah, whom she regarded as a fellow occultist. This is actually a real amulet. Shah took it and looked at it, and found that this thing was actually useful. Although it is an item made by praying to the real Creator, its function is really just that of an amulet. If you ignore long-term wearing, it is easy to unknowingly turn to the real Creator. This small side effect makes it a fine product in other aspects. Great Creator, your devout believer, Einarsson Vincent, prays for your favor. As Einarsson prayed in a low voice, filthy, evil voices appeared in his ears. Mysterious lines lit up on the amulet in his hand. With a bang, thick black gas began to spread with Einarsson's exploded head as the center. Chapter 83 Targeted Killing of Colleagues. Bang! Shah covered Selina's mouth with one hand, held her in his arms to block her sight, and took out a revolver with the other hand and stabbed her in the back. The sacred exorcism bullet hit the head of Einarsson, who was praying intently. The power seemed to stimulate the corrupt whispers surrounding Einarsson's mind. The two conflicting forces directly caused this devout believer of the Lord to return to the arms of God ahead of time. The sudden sound of gunfire made Selina want to scream in fear, but her mouth was covered tightly and her head was pressed on Shah's chest. She could not see anything, her brain was blank, and she could only make a very small whimpering sound. Her hands weakly knocked on Shah's back. Then Shah hit him on the back of the head with the butt of a gun and he fainted. It turns out that the secret praying people can't dodge bullets. When others were praying to the climax, Shah shot from behind and knocked the little girl unconscious. I am still wondering why this secret praying man can't dodge bullets within 7 steps. The sacrificial ceremony in the room did not stop with the death of the sacrificer. The lives sacrificed by the fanatics only served to increase the power of the sacrificial ritual. The rolling black air was like boiling water that was about to boil. Shah calmly threw the protective amulet he borrowed from Selina towards the spreading black air, then took out the brilliant stone he had just purchased and threw this extraordinary material towards the center of the ceremony. The presence of the guardian spell is like adding a bowl of cold water to a boiling pot. The boiling situation that was about to explode was eased. Then the power of the extraordinary material of the sun path, the brilliant stone, was stimulated and exploded. The golden light exploded the ritual altar set up by Einarsson. The power supply to the induction cooker is physically cut off. The sacrificer is dead, the ritual is destroyed, and the remaining power is out of control and can only dissipate without a carrier. The headless body of Heinrich Vincent trembled, as if he wanted to blow it up. Shal-Ire cast another sleeping spell, and the body on the ground became quiet. Done. The dim light in Shal-Ire's eyes faded away, and he nodded while holding Selena. He is also a secret praying person. How could he not know how to destroy the secret praying people's rituals? Without coordinates and channels, the power of prayer cannot be bestowed. This was destined to be a ceremony that would fail. Should I appear to be secretly contaminated? So that the former archbishop behind the scenes won't continue to pay attention to a small character like me. Shal-Ire suddenly realized and decided to act. There was a subtle madness in his eyes. Then he walked forward, picked up the brilliant stone whose color had dimmed a little, and carried this extraordinary material that was somewhat tainted with the aura of corruption on his body, as if he were contaminated. Shal-Ire looked at the body on the ground. There must be something wrong with the fanatics' brains. Are they so focused when they pray? Or is he confident that no secret praying person can refuse the naked body of the true creator? I only used one extraordinary bullet. How can I ask Dunn to reimburse me for it? The bullet in Shal-Ire's hand was the reward he got for reminding Dunn about the pollution in Old Neil. A little privilege of Captain Tingen. He didn't care much about the reimbursement issue. He rubbed the girl's burgundy hair with his fingers and found that the color did not fade and did not stain his fingers. This is a natural wine red. Bang! The door of the room was kicked open. A huge man carrying a high-pressure steam rifle swept across the room. There was a body on the ground, traces of a ritual left behind, and a man holding an unconscious girl who seemed to be planning something bad. He pointed the gun directly at Shal-Ire, who was about to pinch the collagen on his face. Shal-Ire blinked, first used Selena to protect his vitals, and then surrendered. I am a clergyman of the Church of Night. As he said this, he did not forget to look at the high-pressure steam rifle in the other person's hand. There are pipes on the gun body connecting to the huge gray-white mechanical box behind the man. This firepower, it shouldn't be blue flames, right? Shal-Ire really wanted to borrow it to play with. Boy, I need an explanation. If you don't explain clearly, even if Dunn comes to protect you personally, you can't leave so easily. Swain, the raging folk, felt his blood pressure rise when he saw the devastated room. Just before, a wanted criminal named Triss almost demolished his bar, and now the people from the Church of Evernight are bombing his territory. He has only been retired for a short time. Have these guys forgotten his reputation so quickly? Stop it, Tingen is not a coastal area. Here, the Church of the Goddess of Night is more powerful. You have the guts to be tough in front of Dunn. Shal-Ire rolled his eyes and pointed at Heinesen Vincent on the ground and said, "This is a member of the Aurora Society. He tried to attack me and my sister." The unconscious Selena hid in fear in Shal-Ire's arms to express her agreement. Aurora Society. Shal-Ire's arrogant attitude made Swain a little irritated. But after hearing the word, Aurora Club, this grumpy old man calmed down. It was the Aurora Society that died. You should have said it earlier. You did a good job, kid, pay the fine and you can go. Also, this is an extraordinary incident that happened in our territory as the Punisher. We should be responsible for the subsequent investigation. Swain became a little angry again. Even the Aurora Society dared to come to his territory to commit crimes. He just retired, not that he can't lift a knife anymore. Shal-Ire was too lazy to argue with Swain, his superior. How much compensation could such a wooden house get? He paid the money directly, then carried Selena and Admiser and got on the Maynard family's carriage. In the carriage, Shal-Ire grabbed Selena's shoulders with both hands and shook the little girl awake like a rattle. Selena woke up slowly, and after seeing Shal-Ire clearly in front of her, her pupils shrank and she was about to let out a high-pitched ladylike scream. However, Admissal, who was sitting on the other side, screamed before her. The sound was so loud that it drowned out other sounds and confused the little girl. Well done, now be quiet. Shal-Ire looked at Admissal with satisfaction. This little monster is quite perceptive. Without sufficient emotion to match, Selina was now too scared to scream. She shrank back. Leaning against the side of the carriage, I imagined many terrible things in my head. Teacher Vincent has already been murdered, what will be waiting for her? Do you want to go home? Shah-Ir asked as she looked at the little girl who curled up in fear. Home. Hearing this word, the little girl finally couldn't help sobbing softly. Is bullying so fun? For a moment, Shah-Ir actually watched Selina cry patiently. Admitzel saw that the demon was still smiling, and he curled up like the little girl. I'm just polluted. Shah-Ir felt the fear of the two people and made up an excuse for himself. Chapter 84 Knowledge Changes Destiny. You must be tired of crying. Have some water. When Shah-Ir saw that Selina stopped crying after a while, he handed her a cup of sweet iced tea. Selina didn't take it. She looked at the thing Shah-Ir handed over warily, and glanced at the window secretly. It seemed like he was planning to jump out of the car. It's not poisonous. You're already like this, do I still need to poison you? Shah-Ir took a sip through the straw, then replaced it with a new straw and handed it back to Selina. Who are you? What do you want? Selina took the sweet iced tea, planning to use it as a weapon later, and she mustered up the courage to question. Your teacher is a wanted criminal. I have shot him dead. Now we are going to your teacher's residence to collect evidence. You have to lead the way for me. Shah-Ir spoke clearly. You're talking nonsense, my teacher is not a wanted criminal. Selina's face turned red with anger. This criminal actually slandered her teacher as a criminal. It's really unforgivable. You don't believe it. I'll go to the police station and issue you a wanted warrant later. Although the surname Maynard is not as good as Hall, it still has some power in Tingen. This is Shah-Ir's first time playing a young villain, and it feels quite interesting. Selina had heard Shah-Ir's statement, and she also linked Shah-Ir with Counselor Maynard. Her little face turned pale in an instant, but she still gritted her teeth, unwilling to betray her teacher. I still need to investigate where your teacher lives. But your house should be easier to find than your teacher's, right? Shah-Ir threatened lightly. I'll take you there, Selina said as if she had lost all her strength. Thank you for your cooperation. Shah-Ir thanked him politely. The carriage turns. The apartment rented by Heinrich Vincent. Shah-Ir got off the carriage and helped Selina, who looked listless, out. Ademisil didn't want to follow, but he didn't dare to refuse. Shah-Ir used the key he found on the corpse to open the door, and then began to buy things, including occult books, occult materials, and some unnecessary banknotes. After searching through the items, he threw them to Admisoel to carry, and then took Backlund's police ID. I followed the landlord's instructions and helped the deceased to return the house. Shah-Ir didn't care how the mandated punisher would investigate later. Anyway, he had taken these things away. If the mandated punisher of Tingen had the guts, he could come to Backlund to ask him for them. Back to the carriage. Shah-Ir counted the 500 pounds in his hand and lamented the difficulty of life. In the past, he might have given Heinerson Vincent a chance to live. After all, life is precious. Now, may your soul rest in peace in the sanctuary of the true Creator. You bandit. Selina's voice trembled a little as she watched her teacher's inheritance being embezzled. How can this person be so shameless? She had thought he was a good man before. You are the son of Counselor Maynard. Don't you think your behavior is disgraceful? When Selina saw Shah-Ir's banditry, she really couldn't understand it. As the son of a city councillor, even if he was not an elegant nobleman, he at least couldn't be like a bandit, right? He also said that he is a believer of the goddess and a clergyman. Did he get in through connections? Selina felt deeply the darkness of the world today. Her teacher died unjustly, her property was looted, and she was stigmatized. She harmed the teacher. When Selina was about to cry again, Shah-Ir gave her a stack of bills. The little girl was shocked at first, then angry. You actually insult me with my teacher's money. You don't want it. Your teacher has no children, so you have more right to inherit than I do, right? I will help you get your teacher's body back later, and you can use his inheritance to bury him. Don't you want your teacher to be baptized by the church priest and ascend to the goddess kingdom? As Shah said this, he was about to take the money back, but he didn't pull it. Selena gritted her teeth and looked at him viciously. You said you could let my teacher's body rest in peace. Selena wanted to do something for Heinerson one last time. If you really want him to rest in peace, then don't look for the pastor of the church. When Shah saw that Selena actually took it seriously, he kindly advised her. Selena didn't say anything, but her eyes said, none of your business. Okay, let's put your teacher's business behind us. Now let's talk about you. Shah looked at the little girl and fell into deep thought. If this encounter was really arranged by Ince Zangwill, and now that Heinerson is dead and he himself has been contaminated and took away Heinerson's relics, then the follow-up should have nothing to do with Selena, right? I won't give in. Selena saw that Shah was looking at her. She grabbed her skirt nervously, trying to show her determination through firm words. Then how can you give in? Shah asked with some amusement and curiosity. How else can you surrender? Don't dream. Even if you threaten me, I will never fall in love with you. As Selena spoke, her tone became softer and softer, and finally she just gave up. Phew. Ha 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 ha. Shah was amused. He didn't expect that Selena's bottom line was so high. What are you laughing at? Don't laugh. No one will like you. Selena was shy to begin with, and now she was even more annoyed. You have a point. Shah's laughter gradually stopped. This little girl really saw through things. The way he looks now is indeed somewhat unpleasant. Klein's look might be more pleasing. But I don't care whether you like me or not. What a nasty fellow. Seeing that the evil guy Shah was still calm, Selena dared to complain in a low voice. You will come with me later to sign some confidentiality agreements. Someone will contact you regarding your teacher's follow-up matters. Shah ordered the driver to go to the Blackthorn Security Company. He planned to hand Selena over to Klein. These two people should also know each other. Selena didn't say anything. She didn't know what to say now. She just regretted it. I regret that I shouldn't have asked for leave today and shouldn't have looked for the teacher. I regret that I shouldn't have held the magic mirror activity yesterday, and I regret that I shouldn't have peeked at the teacher's occult notes before. The occult is dangerous. Your teacher's death was related to the occult. If you get involved in the occult, you might run into danger like me. You should play safe games in the future, like tarot cards or something. Shah advised the little girl. This world is not friendly to civilian players. Life is difficult at every turn and life safety is often not guaranteed. If he wasn't at sequence 5 at the start, he would have probably died long ago. Without Erod's help, every step forward would be countless times more difficult. Without the omniscience of the time traveler, what can he do? Even the language doesn't make sense. The lead factory in Tingen produced 10 soli per week, and many young girls died from exposure to lead. If you stop working you will starve to death, if you continue working you will die of illness. The malice and danger of this world never disappear. It's just that Shah is a little stronger, and he seems like a danger in most dangers. He always felt that the hidden sage was not that bad. Whether it is for time travelers or ordinary people in this world. The righteous gods will not save you, and other hidden beings have their own problems. Only the sage, the embodiment of knowledge, is hidden. People are not stingy in spreading knowledge, and knowledge can often change destiny. If only there were hidden sages in the world who could impart knowledge directly to me when I was in school. Isn't it just about letting go of your mental defenses? Any hesitation for a second is a disrespect for knowledge. As for the risks, talk to my admission letter. Shah ignored Selena. He just stared out the window at the people coming and going on the street, with hurried steps, lack of vitality, and numb eyes. Perhaps they were creatures called humans. Chapter 85 Klein's Desperate Cry. Although there are so many dangers in the extraordinary world. But the official night watchman receives a weekly wage of £4.50. No matter how dangerous it is, those unemployed workers who can only try their luck at the docks will only receive 3 to 4 soli a week when they are laid off. They must be willing to face this danger. Shaw Iyer was lost in thought and brought Selina to the Blackthorn Security Company. Hand the little girl over to Klein. The two people who had just met last night looked at each other for a moment. Klein was confused when he saw his sister's classmates. He didn't want his special profession to be exposed in front of his family. Selina's eyes widened. Melissa's handsome brother actually knew this kind of person. And it looks like he's an accomplice. Do you know each other? Then things will be much easier. Klein, take this lady to sign a confidentiality agreement. If she has any subsequent questions, you will be responsible for them. Shaw Iyer directly pushed the work to Klein. He would be returning to Backlund tomorrow and didn't want to trouble himself any further. Roshan, please help me take care of Miss Selina first. Klein barely ignored Selina's look of astonishment. He begged Roxanne for help, then pulled Shaw Iyer's shoulder, walked to the other side, and asked in a low voice. Can you at least tell me clearly how you met Selina? What trouble is she in? Klein was somewhat speechless as he spoke. He had just helped this little girl solve a problem last night, and she ran into trouble again today. Her occult teacher is a secret praying person of the Aurora Society. I killed her teacher and took her to search her teacher's house. I'll have Admiser move those occult books and various materials that we found. In short, for various reasons, in her mind, my image is as bad as canned wolffish. After Shaw Iyer gave a brief explanation, he pushed Klein back in front of Selina. If you have any problems in the future, just look for him. After Shaw Iyer finished speaking, he ignored the question marks on Klein's mind and walked towards Dunn's office. He could handle that little bit of money himself, but the other things related to mysticism had to be handed over to Dunn. Once the things were in Dunn's hands, Shaw Iyer could return to Backlund safely. No matter how Ince Zangwill wrote the script in the future, it had nothing to do with Shaw Iyer. Selina, I already understand the situation. Your teacher. Klein looked at the little girl who was staring at him. He was about to explain, but was interrupted by the girl. You mean to say that my teacher is a wanted criminal, and you are officials? In order to prevent my teacher from endangering me, you killed him. There is no wanted warrant for him yet. You will go to the police station to get me one later, right? Selina looked at Klein, hoping that he would give her a reasonable explanation, or refute her, saying that this was not the case and that there was actually another reason. Klein opened his mouth and stuttered, there is a misunderstanding here. He cursed Shaw Iyer 100 times in his heart. How did you explain it to this girl? Where's the misunderstanding? He covered my mouth right in front of me, shot my teacher dead, and then knocked me unconscious. Threatened me to take him to my teacher's house. Selina said expressionlessly. She doesn't want to cry anymore. She has cried before, but it was useless. That bastard didn't just comfort her, he also enjoyed watching her make a fool of herself. Grass. Klein held back the words that he was going to say to clear Shaw Iyer's name. Luo Shan, who was standing next to him, looked at Klein with sympathy and quietly moved aside. Seeing that Klein didn't say anything, Selina remembered what Melissa said, that her brother found a job with a good salary. Blackthorn Security Company. You wouldn't join some gang, would you? The kind that specializes in doing dirty work for noble senators. She said this with her voice gradually getting lower. For a moment, Selina suddenly wanted to find Shaw Iyer. She felt that staying with Shaw Iyer might be safer than staying in this weird security company. Poof. Klein felt as if he had been shot in the heart. He knew that if he let Selina leave with misunderstandings, his impression of Melissa would be ruined. He had to help Shaw Iyer solve the trouble he had caused. Selina, Maynard's attitude may have made you misunderstand something. But we are not the gangsters you think we are. We have documents. Klein said as he took out the Ahawa County Police Department public official ID card issued by Dunn. I see. What about the confidentiality agreement? I'll sign it now. Selina glanced at the ID, and her misunderstanding was further exacerbated by seeing the little comfort that acquaintances brought her disappear. She said very cooperatively. You really misunderstood, right? Klein looked at Roxanne for help. Klein, I'll go get the documents for you. Luo Shan coughed lightly and made an excuse to run away quickly. When Shah-Ir came out of Dunn's office, he saw Klein, who looked like he had lost all hope in life, and Selena, who looked straight ahead, as if she had accepted her fate. He also saw Leonard, who came to watch the show, and the other party secretly gave him a thumbs up. Full of stealing feeling. If you didn't know, you would have thought that the poet classmate had dinner at Selena's place. Have you finished with it? Then I'll leave first. Shah-Ir said hello to everyone and prepared to leave. Wait, I'll go with you. Selena trotted over, stood in front of Shah-Ir and whispered. You don't want Klein to take you there. Don't you know each other? Shah-Ir glanced at Klein. Mr. Fool's eyes were filled with murderous intent at this moment. I want to follow you. Selena lowered her head and followed the real person, black gloves, and her super wisdom gave the answer. Shah-Ir rubbed the little girl's head and looked at Klein, Leonard, and Fry and Roxanne, who were invisible, with a strange expression. Can't you, with so many people, explain it clearly to a little girl? We cannot proactively reveal information about the extraordinary world. How do you want me to explain this? Klein took a deep breath and felt that this wouldn't work. He stood up and said, I'll go with you to take Selena home. When Selena heard this, she shrank behind Shah-Ir and nervously grabbed his sleeve. Klein's heart suddenly broke again. You praised me as a handsome gentleman last night. Should I apologize? Shah-Ir blinked. Shouldn't the Nighthawks have experience in dealing with all kinds of troubles at the grassroots level? You should go back to Backlund soon. I beg you. Klein looked at a demoiselle, who was carrying a large sack and looked like he had just completed a burglary. He let out a cry of despair. Wouldn't their Blackthorn security company be considered a den for selling stolen goods? Don't do that kind of thing. Chapter 86. The Emperor will also be afraid. On the way back, Klein stared at Shah-Ir with murderous eyes. Shah-Ir had no choice but to try to help explain. Selena, you are a smart girl. Klein's police officer ID is also real. How should I explain this? If you know about banks, you should know that in addition to the ordinary employees who normally receive all depositors, there are also some senior employees who specialize in providing services to special people. You can also regard your teacher as a spy from another country. You can interpret it any way you want. The only thing you can do is forget all this and return to your previous life. Faced with Klein's coercion, Shah-Ir gave a hasty explanation. Although Shah-Ir's explanation was still a little, Klein's expression barely eased a little. He was standing in the darkness fighting against the dangerous night watchman, and being described as the black glove used by noble senators to bully the common people. Who could stand this? After Klein took a breath, he looked at Selena nervously. Shah-Ir's way of speaking was too direct, and he did not consider whether the girl could accept it. This made Klein a little worried whether Selena could bear such a way of speaking. You're just going to let me go like this? Selena didn't cry or break down. She had obviously developed resistance. She looked directly at Shah-Ir and asked with some confusion. She frowned and glanced down. Although her red dress was a little dirty and her hair was a little messy, she was still confident about her appearance. She was cute and beautiful. What else? Will you not let go? Will you provide you with food and shelter? Will you buy you clothes? Will you support you through technical school, then through college, and after you graduate from college will you find a decent job? Shah-Ir looked at Selena strangely and said, You are not as interesting as Heinrich Vincent. Can you please stop leading Selena astray? Klein couldn't help it. What kind of lewd words were these? He, an official, was still here. If these words were to get to Melissa. Klein's fist hardened again. Selena was laughed at by Shah-Ir and raised her head in disbelief. Is this what you mean by, not letting go? Shouldn't it be very miserable? When she heard Klein's words, her face flushed red and she lowered her head stiffly. For a moment, she didn't know whether to be angry or ashamed. Seeing this, Shah-Ir stopped talking, closed his eyes, and sang a hymn of the night softly, praising the night. His singing seemed to have a soothing effect, and the atmosphere in the carriage gradually became peaceful. 3 o'clock in the afternoon. An ancient palace above the gray fog. Good afternoon, Mr. Angel. Justice, Audrey said with a smile. Good afternoon, Miss Justice. Shaw nodded and responded politely. Mr. Fool, it's a pity there is no good wine here, otherwise we could toast to your success. After Audrey greeted everyone, she looked at the Fool in a good mood and said. She was probably the only one, besides the Fool, who was pleased with the success of the prayer ceremony. Your strength is beyond our imagination. Alger followed suit and praised. This is something only a truly great person can do. The distance between Lowen and the sea must be very far, I think. Shaw smiled. Judging from his performance alone, Klein's move was enough to shock even an experienced Beander. Everyone should think that he is at least an angel. It is difficult for Sequence 3 saints to respond to prayers from a distance. In this respect, saints are not as good as some spiritual creatures. Shaw's words reminded Audrey and Alger. They now more or less understand each other's situation. It is really amazing that, the Fool, can respond to, Justice, in Backlund and, the Hanged Man, in the Sonia Sea at the same time. This is just the beginning. If you are unable to get away in the future, you can let me know in advance through prayer. The Fool waved his hands, seemingly not caring about such a small matter. Then it was Russell's diary time. Audrey provided a page. Shaw also provided a page. Crane began to read the diaries. The content of the diary provided by Audrey was roughly about why there were so few seals in the steamed church, and whether I had chosen the wrong church. Never mind, I will lead the team. Meet Zaratul again, he turned out to be the leader of the secret society. Digestion standards for role-playing. While Klein was concentrating on reading the diary, Audrey stared at the Fool with wide eyes. Although her vision was completely obscured by the gray fog, she still scared herself. From the corner of his eye, Shaw saw Miss Justice sticking out her tongue slightly, which reminded him of Susie. Klein continued to read the diary provided by Shaw. June 22nd. Damn it. I almost got robbed. Florent of the Sorin family actually invited Matilda to the ball. They danced and the movements were so intimate. Don't think I don't know what he was thinking. He is not only greedy for me, but also greedy for Matilda. He is really mean. Well, although I have always believed that I have adapted to the local customs and become a spiritual Ince person, I am still conservative at heart. Other people's wives are indeed very attractive, but I still cannot accept a green grassland above my head. During this period of time, should we stop all the dances? Don't let Florent or some other bastard steal my girl away. Although I trust Matilda very much, I can't give those guys the opportunity to attack me. Emperor, are you ever worried about being cheated on? Klein looked at the diary, recording the entire process of Russell's anger, guilt, entanglement, struggle, and compromise. He ignored the various greetings that were highly suggestive of mothers. Klein could see that Russell was really afraid that his house would be robbed if he wasn't careful. Continue reading the diary, what follows is incoherent content. Russell has made up his mind since he was a child that when he grows up, he will beat everyone with one punch. The owner, who was smiling without saying a word, silently put down the diary. Great Emperor, you should rest in peace. Sorry to have kept you waiting. The reading time for Fool is over. Gentlemen, I would like to know where I can find the Psychological Alchemy Society. Audrey said while organizing her words. Your focus right now should be on digesting the potion. The Hanged Man shook his head. He didn't know the clue, but he felt that justice was a little too lofty. I just wish I had more time to prepare so I could approach them more naturally. Audrey finished speaking and turned to look at the angel with expectant eyes. Even if you say so, I won't tell you. Shaw refused to answer the question. Why? I can offer you a reward. Miss Justice pouted. Why not tell her? Because I wanted to join, but was rejected. I got jealous and didn't want you to join. Shaw was indeed jealous. He also wanted to create a small account to sneak in and get a personality mask to play with, but the seemingly loose Psychological Alchemy Society might have Adam's shadow behind it. He couldn't sneak into play, and Audrey couldn't either. Mr. Angel, can I ask why you were rejected? Audrey asked with a blink, curiosity written all over her face. Because I want to skip being an ordinary member and become a cadre directly, but their cadres disagree. Shaw sighed and looked extremely sad. Klein, Alger, and Audrey all fell silent upon hearing this. Chapter 87. The money that angels don't make, fools can't make either. Mr. Angel, you are such a character, why don't you take my seat? Mr. Fool's mouth twitched when he heard the angel's vicious words. The hanged man Alger frowned slightly, estimating the strength of the angel. The angel should at least be a sequence 7 Beander, or even a sequence 6, with a small chance of being a sequence 5, otherwise he would not be able to say such a thing. Miss Justice felt stunned and a little regretful at the same time. If Mr. Angel can hold a high position in the Psychological Alchemist Society, the audience will have a channel to obtain the subsequent potion formulas. Audrey persisted in persuading. Mr. Angel, you want to join the Psychological Alchemy Society. You must have some needs. If I can join the Psychological Alchemy Society, maybe I can help you in some way. Shaw tapped the surface of the long bronze table with his fingers, as if he was thinking. When Audrey saw that the angel did not agree immediately, she had already guessed the final result. Although she still had some hope in her heart, she couldn't help feeling disappointed. I refuse. Even if I tell you the clues, you won't pass the Psychological Alchemy Society's examination. You are just a spectator. The one observing you may be a mind reader of a higher order. Shaw shook his head. If Miss Justice went to find the Psychological Alchemy Society, it would definitely be in vain. I see. Does Mr. Angel have a follow-up formula for the audience channel? Audrey didn't dare to say that she could pass the test of a mind reader, but if she became a mind reader, the probability of passing the test would be higher, right? I have. Sequence 8 potion formulas usually cost between £500 and £600. £700, do you accept? Shaw looked at Justice beside him and asked, is Mr. Angel real? Audrey was delighted and said quickly, I accept. Although Mr. Angel added £100 to the price, Miss Justice thought that as long as Mr. Angel was willing to sell it, adding £100 would not be a problem at all. She had almost enough pocket money left for this month. This earns 100, no. 700. Mr. Fool in the first place said that it is impossible not to be envious. The captain's annual salary is only around £1,000. Shaw didn't waste any words. He used a spell to conjure up a piece of white paper, wrote the formula for the mind-reading potion on it, and handed it to Audrey beside him. Audrey thanked it and took it, examining it eagerly. Recipe: complete pituitary gland of an adult lizard, 10 milliliters of cerebrospinal fluid from a falseman rabbit. Mr. Angel, how can I give you the money? She only read it once, then looked at the angel, and asked. I'll put it on the account first. Just keep it in mind. If I need your help later, it will offset part of my payment. If you don't need it, it will be the same if you give me the money later. Shaw thought for a moment and said, he has no use for the money now. I'll keep that in mind. Although Audrey was surprised, she nodded quickly. She didn't mind the debt, and she was also very happy that Mr. Angel trusted her so much. Was it because you didn't need money that you didn't sell the audience formula last time? Alger thought so as he watched Justice and Angel make a quick deal. After getting the formula for the next sequence, Audrey was in a good mood. She looked at the Fool and asked, Mr. Fool, how long do you need to act to digest the potion in your body? Within half a year, or even a month is not impossible. The Fool gives the standard answer. In fact, it is not impossible in one day. For example, the clown potion that brings happiness to people. Shaw raised the corners of his mouth, feeling that after that time with the Elf Queen, he could digest it even if he drank 3 bottles of clown potion. He really should have forced himself on her. Oh, he couldn't fight back at that time. Mr. Fool, do you plan to add new members? Audrey suddenly asked. It takes a certain amount of testing. The Fool said this casually, thinking of the fact that there is an examination before entering the Psychological Alchemy Society. I heard that a listener of the Aurora Society is looking for traces of the true creator, which is the sanctuary in the Aurora Society legend. Alger saw that Justice had no other questions for the time being, so he took the initiative to look at the angel and said, "This is normal. Believers are always yearning for the kingdom of God. How could the kingdom of God of the great beings be established in a place that mortals can easily reach? On the road of exploration, all setbacks are tests given by God. This is the unifying mindset of the pilgrims." Shah-Ir didn't think there was anything wrong with this. The true creator? Audrey asked curiously. That is a great existence believed in by many secret organizations. They believe that the creator is not completely dead, and the remaining part is the real creator. Alger explained simply. What he was actually looking forward to was the fool's reaction to this. "I prefer to call him the fallen creator." The fool chuckled. Is the authority held by this hidden being related to the fall? As expected of Mr. Fool. Shah-Ir flattered him very politely. So this is what you mean. Audrey and Alger were thoughtful. Mr. Fool is really amazing. The two of them looked at him. At this moment, the smile on Klein's face was a little stiff. Is this what he meant? It's not written in the Emperor's diary. Degenerate, that sounds horrible. Mr. Angel, can you give me some detailed information about various secret organizations and secret sects? If you don't mind, I can only give you money as a reward. Audrey subconsciously chose the angel she felt closer to and asked. I don't want to make this money. Trouble. Shah-Ir looked at Alger and said, his meaning was very clear, do you want to make money from this? If you do, you can be our interpreter. Alger chuckled. Angel is such a good person. £1,000, and I can answer your question. I need it urgently, and the price can be negotiated. Alger wanted cash, and he didn't raise the price arbitrarily. £1,000. Mr. Fool at the top pinched his thigh hard. He can earn this money. Although there have been a lot of things happening recently, he has almost finished reading the information about the secret organization within the Nighthawks. Is that information so valuable? Klein couldn't help but take a look at the magnificent angel. How can a fool make money when even angels don't want to? Is he still cool? But that was £1,000. £1,000, no problem. Same address as before. When Audrey heard the offer, she did not bargain and answered in a brisk tone. Anyway, Mr. Angel doesn't look like someone who would collect debts, and her financial situation is still very healthy. Are you really not going to bargain? Alger was stunned for a moment this time before he nodded. He looked gratefully at the angel, who was willing to let him eat meat, and without hesitation, he started to introduce. The Moss Trappist Order was a respected organization in the past, but has now become an evil organization. It is said that the hidden sage they believe in is alive. He has become a personified evil god. Alive? How could he be alive? Audrey was frightened again and withdrew from the audience. A fictional god could come back to life. Klein couldn't accept it. In the scriptures of the 7 great Orthodox churches, don't gods appear in this way? The Lord of Storms, the Eternal Sun, the God of Knowledge and Wisdom, didn't they also come to life in the spirit of the Creator? Perhaps, the hidden sage performed miracles before he came back to life, so there are believers who believe in him. If we simply adjust the order, this matter won't be so weird. Shah-Ir tapped the bronze tabletop lightly and said calmly. Chapter 88 Hands of the Goddess. You actually compare the 3 righteous gods with the evil god. You are really smart. Klein looked at the angel with some admiration. Compared to the evil god suddenly coming to life, his logic as a modern man tells him that the angel analysis makes more sense. The hidden sage comes to life first, and then there are believers to worship him. Instead of believers worshipping a fictitious deity, this deity suddenly came alive. The latter is a bit too weird. I just heard about it. Alger also felt that what the angel said made some sense. As he spoke, he glanced at the fool casually. The fool neither refuted nor agreed. Audrey also relaxed at this time. She looked at Alger with a smile and motioned for Alger to continue. The witch sect is also called the witch family. There are very few members. They reproduce through bloodline and only value girls. Boys will be abandoned, and their husbands will be brutally killed. No one can survive. The spiritual cult believes in death, and the Rose school of thought likes bloody sacrifices. They are mainly active in the southern continent, committing many bloody incidents every year, causing a lot of trouble for the colonial armies of the northern continent. Psychological alchemy has only appeared in the last 100 or 200 years. It believes in impersonal existence and believes that the human spirit can generate everything. The secret society is the least active of all secret organizations, and has the least information. We can only confirm that every time they appear, they seem to be looking for something. After Alger finished his introduction, everyone started sharing some news. Shah-Ir glanced at a faintly twinkling crimson star near the Fool. Is this Derek the sun? Can praying to Bai Zhao point to the gray fog? A fool can't speak giant language, right? This tarot club ends here. Before leaving, the angel of the fourth age sacrificed a virtual personality that did not possess any extraordinary characteristics. With the same origin, Shah-Ir signed for it smoothly. He will stay with this virtual personality in Tingen City. Tuesday, July 17th. Shah-Ir ended his paid vacation in Tingen City and returned to Backlund safely. Maybe because they were carrying sealed artifacts 2049, 3089, Antigonus notes, and accompanied by several Nighthawks, they did not encounter any accidents along the way and were wiped out. However, the stage of correction is still necessary. Al-Hassan and others considerately handed over the task and allowed Shah-Ir to go back and rest early. Shah-Ir looked at Bishop Electra, who was waiting for him with his arms around her shoulders, and suddenly felt that life was so difficult. Maynard, you really surprise me. Should I praise your courage? When Bishop Electra thought of the letters of request written by Dunsmith and Al-Hassan, he felt an uncontrollable throbbing in his head. I'm asking you to follow me and gain merit. Are you really going to the front line to perform meritorious service for me? Capture Riel Bib, delay a member of the secret order, and assist the team in obtaining the fourth epic notes. He noticed something was wrong with a night watchman in Tingen City and indirectly saved his life. Kill a hidden Aurora member and rescue an innocent girl. Picked up a wandering monster with supernatural inspiration, and brought him all the way from Tingen to St. Samuel's Cathedral. Bishop Electra looked at Admithal behind Shah-Ir. At this time, Admissal had already changed into clean clothes and looked at the Sequence 5 spirit wizard with some fear. Give him a chance. There is no future in begging. It is better to devote your life to the goddess. Shaul grabbed Admissal's shoulders and pushed the young man forward. Admissal looked at the bishop nervously. He didn't know what to do now. Aren't you afraid that the church doesn't have a potion suitable for him? Bishop Electra said with a slight sigh. We are the true God Church. We are the Church of Night. Shah-Ir didn't believe that the church didn't even have the potion formula for Sequence 9 monsters. Just because the Church of Night does not offer choices to the Nighthawks does not mean it does not have any. The church does have it, but it needs to be applied to Archbishop Anthony. Can you tell me why you helped him? Bishop Electra asked calmly. This is the help the goddess gives to her believers. Use my hand to change his fate. Shah-Ir drew a crimson moon on his chest and kicked Admissal. Admissal was kicked and quickly drew a crimson moon and praised the goddess of night. When Bishop Electra heard Shah-Ir's enlightened words, he wanted to praise him, but when he saw Shah-Ir kicking him in front of him, he suddenly didn't want to talk anymore. If Shah-Ir dared to say that he kicked the ball for the goddess, Bishop Electra was worried that she would not be able to help but clean up the mess. He can join the church. The bishop took a deep breath and said, You heard it. Now you have a stable job. The church has opened free night schools. It's up to you whether you live like a human being or a monster. Shah-Ir patted Admissal on the shoulder, threw him to Bishop Electra for arrangements, and then returned to his office. Hey, you're back. Did you have a good time in Tingen? Ms. Gray smiled when she saw Shah-Ir walking briskly. Senior Allison, how long has it been since we last met? How come you are so thin? Let me see. As Shah was about to give Allison a hug, he was pinned down by the other party using fighting skills. Your record in Tingen City is really exaggerated. Do you remember that you were only a sequence 9? Allison put more pressure on her hands. Is it an exaggeration? It's not like I haven't fought sequence 8 before. Shah broke free from the control and hugged Allison gently, then returned to his position. You gained confidence from practicing with me. Allison's face darkened. She knew that the sequence 8 Shah was referring to was her. Yeah, if I can't beat my senior, can I beat others? Oh, by the way, I'm a little thirsty. Senior, make me some tea. Shah slumped down in the chair and squinted his eyes comfortably. This is life. Okay. Allison got up and made some tea, because she was such a kind person. Bang. The teacup and a document were placed on the table in front of Shah. Now that you're back, let's work hard. Also, don't just call me senior when you want to tease me. Allison woke up Shah who wanted to take a nap. Ms. Gray, please be quiet. I'm working. Shah opened his eyes, glared at Allison, and then picked up the top file. This is a transfer order. Daly Simone was transferred from Enmat Harbor to Backlund Parish. This lady with a somewhat tragic fate. What does she look like? Wanna go see her? Shah thought uncertainly. Although he was wearing a vest now, he didn't know if he could withstand Daly's dirty jokes. No. 8 Simone. Wednesday, July 18th. Backlund Steam Train Station. Shah waited here, watching the people coming and going, until a young lady in a black robe appeared and he waved to her. Daly Simone was startled when she saw someone waving at her, then she curled her lips and walked over. Shah took a look at Daly. She was indeed very beautiful, but the eyeshadow and blush on her face were a bit weird, and her overall makeup looked a bit old-fashioned. How do you do it, with such weird makeup and still look so natural? Shah could notice that many people in the station were attracted by Daly's strange makeup, but she didn't feel embarrassed at all. This woman is so strong in some aspects. This is my unique style. Daly walked over to Shah, played with her hair with her hands, and winked at him. Do you like it? You have quite a lot of baggage. Shah turned on his spiritual vision and saw many undead spirits surrounding Daly. Aren't these little guys cute? Daly waved his hand to let the undead disperse, then pushed his suitcase towards Shah. Take it yourself. Will the necromancer be unable to carry it? Shah glanced at the lady's suitcase and said indifferently. Haha, that's really not gentlemanly. Daly rolled her eyes at Shah. She easily picked up the suitcase and asked, aren't you here to pick me up? Where are we going now? Let's go to my house first. I think you have no place to stay. Shah joked casually and took her to his carriage. Really? I'm really looking forward to it, but can your house accommodate so many little ones like me? Daly followed with great interest, as the undead appeared and disappeared around her. After the two got on the carriage together, the carriage headed towards St. Samuel's Cathedral. The necromancer looks very powerful. Shah took out a handkerchief, soaked it with water, and handed it to Daly. Why, you don't want to invite me to live in your house? Or do you want to inspect the goods first? Daly raised her eyebrows slightly. She took the handkerchief and gently wiped off her eyeshadow and blush. After removing the old-fashioned makeup on her face, she threw a wink at Shah and said, is this more in line with your aesthetic? Aesthetics change, but beauty is the truth. Shah compared them and said that in terms of appearance alone, Miss Justice was better, but considering her temperament, Daly was more interesting. Won't you introduce yourself? I haven't received any news from the church that anyone will pick me up. After Daly confirmed through her little pet that the carriage was heading in the right direction, she looked at Shah with a smile. Maynard, a clerical staff member of the Church of Night. I saw your transfer order yesterday. From the description above, it seems that you are a beautiful genius. So, I'll take the initiative to pick you up. Do you feel warm in your heart now? Shah refused to admit it, he was just free. I was actually quite touched, but you didn't even want to help me carry my luggage. Now that you've seen me, do you think it's worth it for you to get up so early to pick me up? Daly twirled a strand of hair around her fingers and smiled. Although Shah-Ir's reasons were a bit far-fetched, she was not opposed to someone coming to pick her up. Have you had breakfast? Shah-Ir did not answer Daly's question. Not yet. I just ran into you when I got off the train. Why, do you want to treat me to breakfast? Daly chuckled and shrugged. Then I'll treat you. You are such a young Sequence 6 after all. I may need you to take care of me in the future. Shah-Ir felt a little bored, so he started to interact with his colleagues in a normal way. Then I will take good care of every part of your body. With her woman's intuition, Daly realized that Shah-Ir seemed to have no interest in her. This made her a little angry. She had to take off her makeup. Did he lose interest in her after seeing her bare face? How are you going to take care of it? Shah-Ir thought of done, and he became even more calm. The kind you want, relaxed, smooth, soft. Daly tried to capture Shah-Ir's imagination. I got up a little early in the morning to pick you up. Later, just tell the driver to buy food. I'll take a nap first. Shah-Ir waved his hand to interrupt Daly's performance, which was just about to begin. He leaned aside and closed his eyes. Many places in this world are imperfect, and it is rare to see a beautiful love. Daly frowned slightly. She felt that Shah-Ir might have known something about her, and it should be more than just information. Did he also go to Tingen? Roxanne is a very enthusiastic little girl. Ms. Daly Simone, who has a crush on Dunn Smith. Shah-Ir opened one eye and teased. Roxanne, why does she tell everything? Daly was a little annoyed, and also felt ashamed that her secret was discovered by a stranger. You and Dunn know each other? She asked, quickly calming down. Not familiar with you, but he might have a crush on you, he just has some typical low self-esteem. Shah-Ir stabbed Dunn, who was far away in Tingen, twice from a distance, and suddenly felt less sleepy. Is this what Roxanne told you? The corner of Daly's mouth twitched. What Roxanne said is that I have a friend. Shah-Ir corrected. You heard our story and became curious about me. Do you want to see what kind of woman I am? Daly gradually figured out Shah-Ir's train of thought. Well, by the way, please have some milk. You'll like it. Shah-Ir said this with some regret. If he were in Tingen, he could take the initiative to help these two people express their feelings. Then just talk it out, everything will be fine, probably, as long as you don't back down. Then we can only move forward. I only like sweet milk. Daly didn't see any belittling in Shah-Ir's eyes, so she just smiled and said. Can I give you something cold to drink? It must be hot in such hot weather. With such a low body temperature, it must be very comfortable to hug in the summer. Shah-Ir changed his words very naturally. He placed the back of his hand against Daly's and felt it. Is this the body temperature of the death path? Fry, Lorota, and Daly all have slightly different body temperatures. Daly had the lowest body temperature and a non-physiological coolness. I recommend that when it's hot at night, you can go to sleep in the cemetery. It's really cool there. Daly didn't pay attention to Shah-Ir's actions. She even held Shah-Ir's hand, felt the difference in their body temperatures, then let go of Shah-Ir and suggested. Quiet, cool, and undisturbed. You really are a genius. Shah-Ir suddenly found that what Daly said made sense. And you won't be alone. There will be many bodies accompanying you. You won't be alone. Daly's mouth corners raised slightly. That's how she got here. You said, in a cemetery, that kind of thing. Would the corpses think it was a blasphemy to them, or would they think it was interesting and interested in watching? Shah-Ir asked curiously. After all, this woman can really talk to corpses. He had never thought of such a curious idea before. Most corpses are pretty easy to talk to, as long as you don't use their tombstones to help make things more interesting. As if their brain waves were in sync, Daly thought carefully and said. The two perverts looked at each other, and the previously not so obvious sense of distance disappeared, as if they had found a way to get along harmoniously. Chapter 90 Chaos Sea and Saphira Castle. The Fourth Age. Shah-Ir obtained a copy of the extraordinary characteristics of the Dream Weaver, which was discharged by Gao-Shinam. After the integration of this extraordinary characteristic, he possessed a special ability to separate some of the identities he once had and turn them into living people. This is the prerequisite for the visionary. He tried it, and a sequence 3, Elf Sea King, came out. This is one of his identities, the Lord of the Roarsted Sea. It's good to have more extraordinary characteristics. Shah-Ir felt that a poor angel could not afford to play such a grand game. You continue to gather the fleeing sea creatures, pretend to be a sea monster, and act as a natural disaster on the sea for me. Shah-Ir gave an order to his trumpet, and the trumpet jumped into the water and disappeared without a word. You've gained a lot this time. Gao-Shinam appeared behind Shah-Ir and asked. She could sense that this new natural disaster would leave soon. I'm still short of time. Please help me take care of my sequence 3-part avatar. Shah-Ir nodded. He had already obtained the journey of Grosel. How far could 008 be? His figure disappeared and returned to the Principality of Pers in the northern continent. The Sequence 3 Weaver's ability to clone himself actually has shortcomings. If the original body dies, the clone may also die, instead of serving as an alternative resurrection. The president of the Psychological Alchemy Society in the original time and space, whose real body was hidden in the Garden of Eden, was directly attacked by the King of Angels. The gold coins exploded. If Shah-Ir also lost gold coins, he might have a chance to make a comeback by relying on his identity that was assigned in advance and his extraordinary characteristics. Of course, this is not the most important thing. Most importantly, Principality of Perth, Shah-Ir stood in front of a floor-length mirror. He touched his pointed ears and separated himself. This is a young Oriental man, and is Shah-Ir's former self before he was hoisted onto Saphira Castle. Not as handsome as you, come on, hurry up. Shah Baran is a bit speechless. Memories are all connected, so why bother with the idea of being reminded of something by the scene? Shah-Ir was still a little hesitant. I know, isn't it just cheating? Hurry up, Tianzun can't survive. Believe in God's power. Shah Buran stretched out his hand, waiting for Shah-Ir to expel the two characteristics of thief and swindler from his body. The angel has enough control over itself to expel the low sequence characteristics from its body. The identity of Shah Buran is clean, and it is the identity that Saphira Castle once chose. Theoretically, if Shah Baran eats the two characteristics expelled by Shah-Ir, he can go to Saphira Castle and experience the joy of being a fool. As for the possible dangers, leave it to God, who will do anything. I refuse. Shah-Ir finally shook his head and killed his trumpet with one punch. Theoretically, the Tianzun curtain cannot possess a spirit, it must be combined with a physical body, otherwise the Tianzun would have been resurrected long ago. As long as Shah-Ir stays next to his small account, once the airdrop feature of Saphira Castle is activated, he can kill his small account with one punch, and Tianzun will not be able to revive. But what if? That's the terrifying Lord of Mysteries, not some most powerful clown in the universe. Wait a little longer, don't be impatient. Shah-Ir took out the heart of the Mist Demon Wolf, and repeated the previous operation. Using the power of the natural disaster, he completely isolated the room from the outside world, prayed to the gray fog, pulled out Klein's historical projection, separated out his virtual personality, manipulated the historical projection of Occupy the Next House, used the transfer symbol, and logged into the Saphira Castle. Relying on the blood prepared in advance, Shah-Ir came to the world of the book again. The separated Grand Duke of Pa was responsible for handling daily affairs in the outside world. The world of books. Shah-Ir did not appear in front of Shatas and others. He observed through his mental power. As an elf of the Second Age and a maid of the Elf Queen, Ciatas is very good at managing humans. Humans rebuilt their city-states on the ruins, and they revered Ciatas as the priestess who controlled disasters. Statues of the Elf King and the Elf Queen were enshrined in the sacrificial hall. The statues of the elf king and queen have blurred faces, and the descriptions of their authority also lean towards natural disasters rather than thunder gods or tyrants. The dragon language originally used in the world of the book was abolished, and everyone learned and used the simpler elven language. He would like to migrate a group of elves in later. Can the world in the book continue to provide an anchor for the negative personality of the fantasy dragon? This is bound to have an impact. Shah-Ir turned his gaze to the north. The new map that Shah-Ir had forcibly stepped on seemed to have been completed and put into full use. The barbarians appeared on the snowy plains in the north. They looked like the long-extinct orcs, spoke the language of dragons, and worshipped a frost dragon that was close to the level of a demigod. They were constantly in friction and conflict with the human federation led by Seatas. Is this the transformation of the world in the book in order to continue to provide open black lens bracket anchor close black lens bracket? Shah-Ir stretched out his hand, wanting to wipe out the entire northern tribe, but at this moment, a warning appeared in his heart. His spiritual intuition told him that if he wiped out the orc tribe, then the world in the book would also wipe out the human city-state. Angel is indeed a game bug, but the world in the book can rely on restart to maintain its fragile balance. The ignorant plane consciousness desperately resists the extraterritorial demon. I became the god of the sea. Shah-Ir inexplicably thought of the god King Tang and Duluo Star. He shook his head. He was not pure at all, he was very dirty. With my virtual personality in charge, Shatas is unlikely to encounter plot kills. But as a qualified outer demon, how can I not say hello to the master here? Shah-Ir walked directly into the collective subconscious ocean of the world in the book. He wandered in the deep, silent, gloomy ocean of his soul. The undercurrents lurking in the ocean could not cast a shadow over his soul. Along the way, whether it was the residual image of the demigod's consciousness or some marks of the angel, they were all wiped out with a slap. Shah-Ir held the remaining spiritual imprint of a vampire marquee in his hand, and quickly recorded the patterns, symbols and logos engraved on it, copying down these mystical knowledge to pass the time when he was bored in the future. He held the Book of Catastrophes in his hands, and with the help of his faint occult connection, he soon found a huge deep-sea pit, with an island-sized city in the center. This is the kingdom of the fantasy dragon, the city of miracles, Livisi. As long as I can find this place once, I won't need to rely on that travelogue anymore. Erodes, record the coordinates here. Shah-Ir said to the magic mirror in the island of mind. Sure, I can sense something scary in there. After Erodes recorded the coordinates, he shared his feelings with Shah-Ir. It was an ominous feeling of being watched. This is normal. How can the dragon dare to continue sleeping when the elves are close to the dragon's lair? Shah-Ir looked at the city in the huge pit, and he also felt the threat in being watched. Chapter 91 The Ancient God's Brand. The City of Miracles is a floating city. Dozens or even hundreds of gray-white stone pillars support this magnificent and rugged building. Each stone pillar is nearly 100 meters high and looks like a resting place for giant dragons. Erodes, without you, I would feel regretful coming to the City of Miracles alone. A pair of huge wings covered with membrane spread out behind Shah-Ir, carrying him into the sky, overlooking the huge city in the sky. It would definitely be a pity if there was no one to share my feelings at this moment. Sure, I'm glad you said that. But I still want to remind you to be careful. Erodes was somewhat touched, but also a little worried that Shah-Ir would be hammered to death. The elf smiled and landed in the huge palace in the center of the city. Is this the former residence of Angerweed, the imaginary dragon? Perhaps it could also be called the Hall of Honesty, though that doesn't really work for me. Shah-Ir closed the door of the mind-body and stepped into it, without his eyes lingering on the murals on both sides. He looked directly at the deepest part of the palace, at the very center, where there was a giant pillar that required countless people to hug. As Shah-Ir looked at the giant pillar, a grayish-white figure was outlined on it. The figure was covered in scales, each one looking like a solid slab of stone, and the mere vague outline seemed like an epic. The dragon of fantasy, Angerweed. When Shah-Ir saw the giant dragon, he also heard his own voice in the hall. The corner of his mouth twitched, and the island of his mind was covered by dark clouds, isolating it from this influence. Roar. The roar of the fantasy dragon carries the power to influence the mind. It flew up, its huge wings spread as if they could cover the sky. It opened its dragon claws and grabbed towards the elf, establishing an absolutely invincible image in the spiritual world. At this moment, it appeared to any angel who had a psychological shadow over the fantasy dragon as the invincible and powerful ancient god. Even in Shah-Ir's eyes, it felt like he saw the real fantasy dragon. This doesn't feel like an illusion at all. Is this the city of miracles before the dragon of wisdom passed the level? The spiritual imprint of the fantasy dragon. Shah-Ir received a strong mental shock from the dragon's roar, and he uncontrollably thought that he was facing a peak ancient god. The opponent's momentum alone seemed to tear him to pieces. It's so funny. Shah-Ir's eyes were gradually filled with madness, and even some of the forms of mythical creatures were activated. The extraordinary abilities of the audience are more abstract. Sequence 3 begins. I can be as strong as you think I am. Sequence 2 has become, how strong I think I am, that's how strong I am. Not bound by external image, completely unreasonable. Shah-Ir, even if it's just a psychological impact. Still feel unable to do it. What should I do then? Just do it first. He trembled with fear, was angry because of trembling, and was excited because of anger. Before his mind could react, his body had already leapt high into the air, driving the whistling wind into a sword that slashed towards the giant dragon in the sky. It's just a projection of past emotions. I can't kill you, bastard. Clang. The strong wind and the sharp claws collide. Shah-Ir felt some phantom pain in his brain, as if he had swallowed 1,000 needles, and his thoughts became confused. The fantasy dragon was also knocked over by the brute force and was swept away by the strong wind and lost his balance. Who allowed you to fly over my head? Shah-Ir's head hurt more and more. The more it hurt, the more he wanted to hit someone. He stretched out his hand and grabbed the sky heavily. Hundreds of tornadoes besieged the giant dragon in the sky, and the giant dragon in the sky was smashed to the ground. Flashes of lightning lit up the entire palace. Shah-Ir gave up all tactics and completely transformed himself into the king of thunder and lightning, relying on the strength of the storm path to act recklessly. The dragon of imagination swung its tail, as if it was hitting the soul directly, and Shah-Ir's brain seemed to explode. Do you dare to fight back? How dare you fight back? The elf gritted his teeth and hammered back. One of the wings of the imaginary dragon was pierced by lightning. In Shah-Ir's spiritual world, Rhodes roughly analyzed it. The spiritual imprint left by the fantasy dragon occupies a favorable geographical location, and has some characteristics of weak sequence 1 in some aspects. But do you want to defeat the angels in the storm path one by one head-on? This is almost impossible. Beat the ancient god today. Amid the continuous dragon roars, Shah-Ir's heartbeat became louder and louder, and every cell in his body seemed to come alive and have a will of its own. Some cells are still thinking about resolving the problem peacefully. But the natural disaster had already started to go berserk, and it didn't care what these consciousnesses were thinking at all, and rushed towards the ground where the dragon of imagination had fallen. The hall was pockmarked with storm damage in various places. However, the dragon of fantasy suddenly disappeared. Just like that, he disappeared under the lightning that covered the entire palace. Sure, he's. Rhodes' warning came from the Mind Island, but Shah ignored it. The huge stone pillar was broken by the sound of a sonic boom, and the throne, where the fantasy dragon had lived for who knows how many years, was broken by the elf's kick, revealing the bronze gate behind the throne. The rune chains on the bronze gate began to shake, and an eye with a dark pupil covered with dark blue cracks opened and looked at the elf standing motionless in front of the gate. More eyes opened densely, and a crazy breath came out through the seal. The spiritual world. Shah-Ir held a mirror in his hand, looking at the dragon of imagination that covered the sky. Mainly attack the mind and body. You want to replace me? Personality-wise, replacement. The spiritual projection of the imagination dragon had no ability to think. It flapped its wings and streams of golden light appeared like rain, trying to contain the disasters that were constantly erupting in various parts of the Mind Island. The blue barrier guards the island of the elves, personal consciousness, and the dragon of imagination flutters its wings, looking for loopholes in the elves' minds, spreading madness in a manner similar to a mental plague. But I'm also a psychiatrist. Shah-Ir controlled the lightning to chase the imagination dragon in the sky. This mental projection could threaten the saint, but it was still far from enough to kill an angel. The fantasy dragon also stirred up a storm on the spiritual level to contend with Shah-Ir's power, trying to cause the audience characteristics in the elf to run wild, but failed. Shah-Ir had deliberately guarded against this move before coming. The characteristics of the Sequence 3 Dream Weaver came from the Elf Queen. The characteristics of a Sequence 4 operator: expel, crush, and eat again. Even so, within his body and his spiritual world, the remnants of the dragon's spirit are still being awakened. This may be the remnant from eating Borneal. Roar. The dragon's roar set off a mental storm, trying to detonate Shah-Ir's accumulated madness. A rainstorm was falling on Shah-Ir's spiritual island, and the rainstorm soothed the spiritual frenzy. The elf scourge was hanging on to the dragon of fantasy, and also took the time to learn the operations of this high-level stream of consciousness player. This spiritual imprint is simply a mobile expansion pack. Shah-Ir looked at the deep blue mental barrier that was gradually stained with a layer of golden light and smiled happily. The ancient gods are very powerful, but the evil spirits of the ancient gods are just so-so, not to mention that this is just a spiritual imprint. Even if I let go of my defense and let it take over my body, it will take at least 3 months for it to completely devour my spirit. Shah-Ir made a conservative estimate. After he became a complete mythical creature, all aspects of his spirit also underwent a transformation. Chapter 92. Be like me, no need to feel inferior. The fantasy dragon is not a zombie. This is the former palace of Angerweed, the kingdom of the dragon of imagination. The emotions of this crazy ancient god for thousands of years sank into the ocean of collective subconsciousness, gradually settled and turned into a brand. This mark has no extraordinary characteristics, but it is terrifying enough. If you are not of sufficient status, you will suffer a great loss when facing it. The spiritual imprint of the fantasy dragon has become part of the collective subconscious ocean, and can reversely affect the surrounding creatures. Become part of their memories, or even make those memories a real part, hedging against the memory of the target itself. The crazy, ancient god phantom in the sky seemed to be provoked and crashed directly from above. Shah-Ir said nothing, his body covered with gusts of wind, his hands rubbed lightning, and he opened the sky with one punch. The huge force caused the island of mind itself to tremble. The gray scales of the fantasy dragon shattered, and golden blood flowed out. They turned into golden light and sprinkled on the island of the mind below. These were all the memories and past madness of this ancient god. Shah-Ir raised the corner of his mouth, waiting for this moment, and opened the other party's spiritual door, in reverse. It was like a dream, seeing the memories of this ancient god. He seemed to be the incarnation of a dragon of fantasy, sitting cross-legged on a huge stone pillar, with huge wings behind him and strong limbs. It looks extremely powerful. The light golden vertical pupils looked outward. Outside the palace, giant dragons were perched on top of the stone pillars. The dragon of nightmare, the dragon of wisdom, and those ancient dragons with the status of follower gods. These dragons seemed to feel the gaze of the Dragon King. They stood up from the stone pillars and lowered their heads towards the direction of the palace. Hundreds of stone pillars, and giant dragons, at least nearly demigods, all bowed their heads towards the palace and prayed devoutly in the dragon language, as if they were calling out his real name. Angelweed, Angelweed, Angelweed. These sounds were like open black lens bracket anchors close black lens bracket. The dragons did not chant any honorific names, but just prayed by chanting their true names. Shah-Ir felt that his spirit was affected in some way, and an ancient, wild, sacred will awakened. Is this the resurrected consciousness of the original god? Or is it the madness spread by the fantasy dragon? He couldn't be completely sure. But he knew that this was something every angel would experience. He was not lost in the sounds of these prayers. He also has many open black lens bracket anchors close black lens bracket, including himself in the fifth era, the world in the book, the belief in the god of elves, the god of natural disasters, established by Ciatas, the principality of Pa in the outside world, the remaining elves in the outside world, and the sea people who are sheltered in the Sonia Sea in the outside world. These prayers for natural disasters and the elves diluted some of the misunderstandings about being the Dragon King. Shah-Ir manipulated his limbs to stand up. This was not something he was interested in. His interests lie elsewhere, and the fantasy dragon should be very impressed by this. As Shah-Ir stood up, the surrounding environment changed. A white priest in a black clergy robe appeared in front of him, with a silver cross hanging on his chest and his eyes as bright as the sun. There was a dark, fallen shadow under his feet, and a clock with a 12-grid transparent dial was wrapped in the shadow. Lightning and strong winds surrounded him. Step by step, he walked towards the giant dragon king who dominated the sky, as if he was going to sentence the ancient god for his crimes. Shah-Ir felt unprecedented anger, and even some fear. These emotions seemed to be his, but not his. They were undoubtedly from the dragon of imagination. He did not resist the emotion this time. Instead, the ancient god's powerful body made his blood boil. Longing for a fight. You, or the challenger. Under the somewhat indifferent gaze of the ancient sun god, the dragon of imagination gradually transformed into a human form. He has light golden vertical pupils, long gray hair like solidified mist, pale skin, and faint illusory symbols flowing under his skin. They bulge like blood vessels as his emotions stir. He is simply wearing a robe, and his huge dragon claws have turned into two sharp spears, one long and one short. The ancient sun god frowned slightly, feeling that something was different about this ancient god. As for madness, this is just normal for the ancient gods. The sun will also fall. Shale points his gun at the ancient sun god, thinking that he still has a chance of winning. He tries to use the power of his mind to call upon the negative personality that has been sealed by himself, and fight Grisha to the death. Roar. Shah-Ir let out a dragon roar without any instruction. His command to access the negative personality was rudely withdrawn by the dragon of imagination, and the command was not passed. Wielding two spears, as if using his claws, he charged towards the ancient sun god. The sun always rises on a new day. A dragon cannot fly without its wings. The ancient sun god held the cross in his hand, and a golden sun rose in his eyes. The storm around him began to control the sky and the sea. The shadows and desires in his heart began to grow, and time seemed to be distorted and wrong. Shah-Ir was beaten back by the numerical monsters, and tried to summon the Chaos Sea and the ancient sun god more than once. But he was never able to do it, as if this body was playing tricks on him, not only not helping but also holding him back. Even if I am attacked from both sides, I need to suppress the negative personality alone and cannot use my full strength. You can only struggle under my shadow. Shah-Ir probably tested the endurance limit of the dream, and pounced on the ancient sun god. His body turned into a huge translucent ancient bell, covering the ancient sun god. When the ancient sun god heard the resolute voice of the dragon of imagination, he suddenly had a bad premonition in his heart, and the storm in his hand hit the huge ancient bell like a heavy hammer. Dong 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 one. The ringing of bells under the storm made the faces of the ancient gods who held the four powers become distorted. The ancient sun god's counterattack became more and more violent, and the huge ancient bell was covered with cracks in an instant. Chaos. Burst. God said, "Let there be light." The sky was torn apart, the earth was devastated, and the sun fell from the sky. The dream world shattered directly, as if the sun had dispelled the illusion. Shah-Ir suddenly woke up from this memory that did not belong to him. Shah-Ir, you. Barod's voice sounded somewhat uneasy. He sensed the breath of the underground from the elf, which was indirectly transmitted by the negative personality of the sealed ancient god. I'm fine. Shah Ayer's spirit was also severely impacted in the dream. But fortunately, I managed to eat some of the ancient god's spiritual imprints. His consciousness regained control of his real body, and a faint chaotic light shone in his eyes. He raised his hand and grabbed the half-broken stone pillar which was engraved with various patterns with sealing effects. He placed the half-broken stone pillar in front of the bronze gate, blocking the somewhat weak sight coming through it. Chapter 93. Let's try grafting. Shale left Angerweed's palace. He sat on the stone steps in front of the hall, looking at the city in the distance. Through the forms of entering dreams and interpreting dreams, Shah Ayer met the ancient sun god. During this process, the spiritual imprint of the dragon of fantasy can assimilate Shah Ayer's consciousness through the remaining memories and emotions of the ancient gods. Just didn't work out. Above Shah Ayer's mental island, the remaining dragon's mark had not yet dissipated. Some of it was controlled, while some was still resisting and harassing his spirit. Shah Ayer was somewhat disappointed with this dream experience. This kind of memory wants to assimilate me. I really don't feel involved at all. Although the experience of the power of the ancient gods is really good. Especially the dreaming dragon, an ancient god who is a dreamer, the White Tower, and the perfectionist. Even Shah Ayer looked at many open black lens bracket anchors close black lens bracket to maintain his self-positioning. He almost lost himself in this power, it was really hard to resist. And you can also come into contact with the ancient sun god. Although it is a written version. The ancient sun god who was completed based on the memory and cognition of the fantasy dragon. A dream simulated by the spiritual projection of the fantasy dragon. But the numerical ratio between the two sides is probably close to reality. Powerful. Very strong. But it doesn't mean you can't fight. Borrowing the power of the Chaos Sea, fighting to the death with the ancient sun god. The ancient sun god has a small dark angel, doesn't I also have a nightmare dragon. They are all clones that have transformed into their original bodies, and they are all gods again. We don't know what will happen in the second round yet. As long as the ancient sun god explodes, the other surviving ancient gods will come and fight. How could the White Tower's super wisdom and the visionary's coincidental intervention fail to make the ancient sun god the target of public criticism? But the underlying logic of the dragon of fantasy's memory is to stay away from underground pollution. The fear of the underground in emotion far exceeds what the ancient sun god Shar can exert in dreams. It must be a power within the cognition of the dragon of imagination. He could not materialize anything beyond the imagination dragon's cognition. The dream ended up mixing in a little bit of the Chaos Sea's aura, causing a big disaster for the ancient sun god. This was because of the influence of the negative personality polluted by the Chaos Sea behind the bronze door. That crazy negative personality also wanted to escape the seal through dreams, using Shah Ayer as a carrier. Then he was led by Shah Ayer to self-destruct in the dream, and was followed by a hateful attack from the ancient sun god. Shah is an angel with a complete personality, characteristics, and state. I can still withstand the impact of dreams. After all, that was the memory of the fantasy dragon, so the sense of immersion was quite poor. Dreams could not really materialize that kind of power, so the impact he suffered was relatively small. The fantasy dragon's spiritual imprint and negative personality are more miserable. One is a spiritual remnant, and the other is crazy itself. There are problems with both his status and characteristics, so the impact he suffers is even greater. This was supposed to be a friendly communication dream. Due to Shah Ayer's self-explosion, all three parties were somewhat weakened. The Sun Path has the power to clear or purify residual spiritual imprints. The sealed object Dark Cross has demonstrated this ability. The spiritual imprint of the fantasy dragon accompanied Shah Ayer in being bombarded by the sun, and its size shrank significantly. The fantasy dragon's negative personality, which was polluted by the Chaos Sea, became a little listless after being slapped in the face. Shah Ayer was indirectly contaminated by the negative personality, but as expected, it was still within the tolerable range. His hair spread out like long tentacles, wrapping around the dragon's palace like an octopus, and lightning-like marks surrounded his flesh and blood. This palace contains the means for the resurrection of the fantasy dragon. Shah-Ir plans to find a way to take advantage of it. Indirect pollution can also increase its intensity and establish a deeper connection with this palace. You always have to adapt to this situation in advance. Above the gray fog, the fortune teller, who saw himself transformed into a giant octopus through Rod's prayer, gave a thumbs up. Although the main body is tainted with a bit of the aura of the Chaos Sea. But the magic mirror on the island of mind will not be polluted by the breath of the chaotic sea. Of course, the virtual personality of the fortune teller above the gray fog was not indirectly contaminated. Just no prayer, no direct contact. The two Aquaman trumpets that were separated in advance will not be affected too much either. It is quite troublesome if you are born without authority over the Chaos Sea. This is the lair of the imagination dragon. If I manage it for 1,000 years, it may become my territory. Fortune teller, Shah-Ir planned to start influencing now, so that when the fifth era comes, his future self can use it. A small amount of pollution doesn't seem to do much. At most, it can increase mental resistance. The price is that the consciousness of the revived primal god will be strengthened, making him more prone to madness and requiring more anchors. It can also improve the basic attributes. The extraordinary abilities of the Sequence 3 Dreamweavers can also rely on the influence of status and pollution to approach the level of the Audience Path Angels. All 5 angels, the spiritual imprint of the fantasy dragon, and the breath of the chaotic sea. If you sew up the torn parts of the spiritual imprint, you will have an empty shell of a pseudo-fantasy dragon. The fortune teller, Shah-Ir showed a smile that seemed eager to try. The anti-theft mechanism left by the fantasy dragon must be very good, especially for preventing spectators. It is obviously impossible to really affect the next move of this ancient god by using the spiritual imprint of the fantasy dragon. But what if it's grafted? What about grafting the Scourge and the Hall of Honesty together? Is there a chance? Shah-Ir turned his head and looked at the Tianzun curtain, not far away. He used his spiritual power to draw a lucky charm and threw it over, but the Tianzun curtain didn't react at all. Shah-Ir tried to communicate with the crimson star of the natural disaster, and a faint light flashed on it, and the curtain of the heavenly lord trembled. Reacting to the aura of the Chaos Sea, Shah-Ir lit up his crimson star, established a spiritual connection, and through a reverse secret ceremony, obtained part of the power released by the natural disaster. Is the power at the angel level enough to activate this, level 0 sealed object? Shah-Ir grabbed the Tianzun curtain. He could feel the curtain in his hand. There were some strange movements of a little Chaos Sea aura connected to the crimson stars. He injected spirituality into it and tried to graft natural disaster and Hall of Honesty together. Creates a possibility for the elves to influence the murals in the Hall of Honesty. The Hall of Honesty, inside the palace. The state of Elf Scourge became somewhat worse after being grafted with the Hall of Honesty, which was also because the characteristics of the Scourge had not been fully digested. Shah-Ir tried to control the mural on the right side of the hall and update the content on it. The environment in the world of the book has deteriorated rapidly, with frequent abnormal weather, reduced food production, and animal deaths. The shortage of food caused the conflict between the human city-states and the northern orcs, which had been under control, to become unstoppable. The war broke out. Ciatas was wearing simple leather armor and holding a bow and arrow, aiming at the king of the north in the sky. This elf also has to digest the potion through role-playing. The disaster high priest actually performs better in this kind of natural disaster environment. Various natural disasters began to occur in the world of the book, forcing the virtual characters in the world of the book to struggle for survival. The greater terror and belief in the great Lord of Calamities provided assistance to Shah-Ir in digesting the potion. Chapter 94, Hermit. No, fool. The Fifth Era. Shah-Ir received the memory in a dream. In his dream, he was playing the max-level account of Fantasy Dragon and encountered the Son of God. He tried his best and planned to never lose to others in his life, but his cheats were uninstalled by the original owner who did not want the account to be banned. The content of the dream has no end. He dreamed of a small world locked in a crystal ball again. He sprinkles a handful of salt and it becomes a snowstorm. He blows a breath and a storm comes. Natural disasters continue, death continues to spread. The creatures inside died in batches, and then grew again in batches. Gradually, as if a major blood transfusion, in the world of the book, the output of extraordinary materials in the storm path and the audience path began to increase. Except for outsiders such as giants and vampires, extraordinary people from other paths continued to die, and the new generation of extraordinary people began to adapt to the environment and choose the storm path and the audience path. The appearance of the extraordinary people who took the storm path began to distort towards sea monsters, and the appearance of the extraordinary people who took the audience path began to distort towards dragons. They fight each other, devour each other, and die together in some extreme climate, burying everything in their lives. New creatures will then be born to repeat the cycle. Oh no, this feeling of being a creator is a bit addictive. Shah-Ir had woken up, but it was still like a dream, with many images flashing through his mind. This silent gaming experience is somewhat addictive. Treat the creatures in the book world as ants and play with them casually. If you kill all the games, you can reset them. It feels so real. He shook his head, breaking away from the wantonness of the incarnation of the scourge. Influencing the Honesty Hall has been achieved. But it may also be counter-influenced by the Honesty Hall. The negative personality polluted by the Chaos Sea may indirectly pollute itself by influencing the Hall of Honesty. As long as we are not facing the Chaos Sea directly, or the projection of the Chaos Sea, there shouldn't be much of a problem. Even if the main one is destroyed, Sea King will go and reclaim the natural disaster feature. It's not enough to affect the murals. The layout of the Fantasy Dragon is not so easy to use. I want to make the City of Miracles into my own shape. Maybe it will take hundreds of years of hard work. Shah-Ir still wanted to try and see if he could overtake others. According to the time, Tingen should start soon. Tingen City. An abandoned warehouse. Lenevis looked coldly at Megos, who was being hypnotized by Hood Eugen on the altar. He wanted to kill this woman now. It was nothing to the city councilor's youngest son, so Lenevis didn't care. But the hateful thing was that this woman actually accepted the congressman's suggestion and deposited the money that was supposed to be invested in the steel company into a specific account at the Tingen branch of Backlund Bank. Being on the top 10,000 list is a considerable amount of money. The bank conducts personal audits and imposes restrictions everywhere. These people had no intention of letting him take the money. Lenevis saw it clearly. By then, the banks will get a share, and the investors will get a share. Congressman Maynard will gain the gratitude and votes of the middle class, while Lenevis will bear all the blame. The steel company will go bankrupt directly, and those with value will be divided up, while those without value will be thrown into the trash. These damn nobles and bankers had no intention of leaving him any chance of survival. Is the hypnosis complete? Lenevis licked his lips and asked Hood Eugen. He originally didn't want to get involved in this ritual of praying to the true creator and creating the offspring of the evil god. But now, he wants the entire city of Tingen to pay the price. It's done. She will mistake the projection of the evil god for you, Mr. Maynard. Hood Eugen was a little annoyed by Lenevis's urging, so he deliberately provoked the swindler. They are doing a life-threatening job now, why rush them? If you have the ability, do it yourself. Snort. Lenevis snorted coldly. He was too lazy to argue with Hood Eugen. He signaled with his eyes to start the ceremony. At this point, both of them began to harbor their own ulterior motives and push the blame on each other. It was obvious that each wanted the other to be responsible for more of the ritual and the dirty work of chanting the true creator's name. No one was willing to do it, so Hood Eugen hypnotized Megos to chant the name herself and sacrifice herself to the evil god. Thus began an evil and blasphemous ritual. In the room where candles were lit, the flames turned black. There seemed to be a rift between reality and the spiritual world, and a naked figure hanging upside down on a cross appeared. There was no one else here. The hypnotized lady murmured the name of the evil god. The candlelight reflected on her beautiful face, and the engagement ring on her hand flickered with an enchanting light. The projection of the true creator paused, and heard other honorific names. As a sacrifice in the ritual, the woman murmured, "No longer is he the creator of all things, the ruler behind the shadows, the fallen self of all living things. But, a fool who does not belong to this era. You are the mysterious master above the gray fog. You are the yellow and black king who controls good luck." A blasphemous card rises from a ring on a woman's hand. On the cover of the card, the fool is wearing a gorgeous headdress, colorful clothes, and carrying a cane with luggage hanging on it. He bowed and saluted the hanged man in the air. He took out a copy of Antigonus Notes from his bosom, snapped his fingers, and the notebook began to burn. The power of Antigonus contained in the notes was extracted, amplified, and used. Black threads fixed the projection of the evil god in midair. Although the evil god is very powerful, the evil god's projection is not strong. How much power can the real creator get with the help of too low sequence infiltration? It just has a high degree of divinity and pollution. The power that the fool extracted from the Antigonus notebook also possesses divinity and is close in nature. With the blessing, it can affect the projection of the evil god. The projection of the true creator is frozen. Looking at the fool, who came out of the blasphemous card and tore the card that was corroded by the shadow of corruption into two halves at will, a lot of dirty words were brewing in his mouth, but he couldn't curse because he was restrained. The fool did not embarrass the true creator. He snapped his fingers again, and the gray mist began to spread, directly cutting off the network cable of the real creator. Of course, the projection of the evil god could not become a secret puppet, it was just sealed in a piece of card. The fool has a bright smile on his painted face. The virtual personality of Angel that accommodates the blasphemous cards is a high-level player of high status. Although the card given to Shah by the hidden sage was the hermit card. But as long as the core gift of knowledge is power remains unchanged. If he says it is the fool card, then it is the fool card. Just change the knowledge on it into the knowledge of the fool's path. The time traveler should not be unfamiliar with the fool's path. The hidden sage gained the knowledge, and it was only fair that Shale borrowed his power to perform ritual magic. Chapter 95 Past and Future. The fool's hand slipped, and the card that sealed the evil god's projection accidentally fell into Megosi's abdomen and combined with the remains of the descendant of the god of death sealed in her body. Behind the fool, a pair of eyes without eyelashes, cold and ruthless, and almost transparent, appeared in the void. The hidden sage does not hide his curiosity. The fool doesn't care. As long as it doesn't ruin his own business, he can watch if he wants. Chaotic neutral is pretty good sometimes. The fool waved his hand, and the burned Antigonus notebook reappeared. This time it's just a simple manuscript. The power transferred from the real notebook was also used on the projection of the evil god. He glanced at Megos and controlled her body to improve the original ritual in the warehouse, making it more in line with the ritual style of the three weirdos. The fool throws the notebook in his hand to the illusionary eyes, and then begins to pray to the fool. The transparent eyes blinked, and the notes were directly absorbed as a stream of information. The eyes of the hidden sage swept across the patterns and symbols engraved on the ground, giving these symbols power. Above the gray fog, the message sent by Shah Iyer's mobile phone account was received by the computer account. Countless vibrations were sent to myself. At this time, the real Mr. Fool was still sleeping soundly. The ritual for summoning the projection of the evil god also turned into a ritual for summoning the projection of the kingdom of God. The Fourth Age. City of Miracles. The crazy natural disaster whose tentacles wrapped around the entire palace was shocked, and a deep red light flashed in his eyes. The bombardment of news from the future fool brought a little clarity to his drowsy mind. A fool who does not belong to this era. You are the mysterious master above the gray fog. You are the yellow and black king who controls good luck. I pray for your favor, I pray for your help, I pray for you to heal my pain. In the fifth era, a fool, who looks like a fool, smells like a fool, and even licks like a fool. By carving the lucky fortune charm, he connected to the crimson stars and answered his past self's prayers. The crimson light in Elf Scourge's eyes became even brighter, and he knew he should start a new attempt. The impact of the negative personality of the fantasy dragon is weakened by contact. His tentacles acted like paintbrushes, painting on the mural on the right side of the city hall. The world in the book is controlled by the murals in the city hall. While hunting down the half-dragon, half-sea monster, hybrid monster that released the madness of Shatas, an extraordinary feature with many small flying insects surrounding its surface appeared in front of her. A virtual personality walked out of Siata's body. Shah-Ire picked up the extraordinary characteristics of the dream thief that was imagined in the world of the book. In the fantasy dragon's memory, the fantasy dragon had eaten a hybrid path giant corresponding to the thief path sequence 5, and combined with the relevant knowledge from the hidden sage, he imagined a fake Beander characteristic. Shah-Ire's virtual personality contained the extraordinary characteristics of a fake dream thief. Relying on the influence of the elven disaster on the world in the book, through sacrificial rituals and lucky runes, he came above the gray fog. The two virtual personalities exchanged, the one without characteristics returned to the world in the book, and the one with imaginary characteristics stayed in the gray fog space. As soon as I arrived in the gray fog space, the extraordinary characteristics that I imagined out of thin air showed signs of dissipating. Sure, of the thief's path sequence 5 leveraged the power of the gray fog and borrowed the ability of the wrong path sequence 3 to deceive the mentor in advance, defrauding the fantasy characteristics in the body, creating the illusion that it was still in the world of the book, and delaying the dissipation speed of the fantasy characteristics. The Tianzun curtain on the other side did not move, and did not react to the fantasy characteristics at all. The dream thief stayed above the gray fog, leveraging its power, appeasing the heavenly venerable curtain, and then paying attention to the developments in the world of the book. City of Miracles. The tentacles controlled by Shah-Ire spread to the mural on the left, representing the fantasy dragon, the authority that the declared future will surely come true and become reality. The half-crazy scourge skipped the blank mural in the middle and looked directly to the end of the mural, where the content of the last mural was that Grossel's travels met an ancient feather pen. Relying on his connection with the city hall, Shah-Ire began to paint, and on the first mural, he drew an ancient feather pen and a slightly illusory ancient travel book about to meet. The city hall suddenly shook. Angelweed. The voices of worship directed to the Dragon King continued to ring out. On the left side of the mural, the content of Shah-Ire's painting appears blurred and seems to be erased. The scourge extended its tentacles and continued to paint, and ancient palaces appeared around the notes and travel notes. The hall kept shaking. The story development in his painting was recognized. The notes and travel notes will eventually meet, and the development of the story does not deviate from the predetermined ending. Oh, a sneer sounded. Tentacles began to sweep over the murals on both sides. On the mural on the right that controls the world in the book, the plot of the world in the book begins to update, and lightning strikes to death all the monsters infected by madness. The world is torn apart, and the raging ocean separates the two continents. One by one, the elves began to build the kingdom of elves. On another continent, a modern city suddenly appeared. Daffodil Street, Blackthorn Security Company, Occupy Club, City Hall. The elf scourge drew the future Tingen city on the mural on the right that controlled the world in the book, and also began to draw Tingen city on the mural on the left that predicted the future. On the mural on the left, in a room with red smoke, Ince Zangwill is holding the seal 008 and writing something. The mural swayed like a phantom, but it finally managed to stay on the mural and gain recognition as a story. On the mural on the right, a house with red chimneys appears in the city of Tingen in the world of the book. Inside the house, there appears a man with a blurred face and an ordinary feather pen. With the authority of visionary, influence the future from the past. With the authority of the Fool, respond to the past from the future. The Fifth Era. Tingnan City. Abandoned warehouse. The Fool already knows that the natural disaster has begun to interfere with the story of this era through the ancient god murals that write the future. She also began the ritual of summoning the projection of the Kingdom of God. Although summoning the projection of the Kingdom of God is indeed difficult for the Fool. But to play Fool, you have to be flexible. The Fool closed his eyes and snapped his fingers, borrowing the power that once belonged to the Dreamweaver. He began to connect the dreams of the people around him, centered on himself, and formed a system that covered the city of Tingnan. The huge dream maze is also a maze of the mind. This is usually something that only Audience Pathway Sequence 2 insiders can do. The power of Sequence 3 Dreamweaver is somewhat substandard. But it doesn't matter, Sealed Object 008 has the characteristics of being alive. It is a Sequence 1 writer feature, but it is not the only Sequence 1 feature. It will help. Chapter 96 Sealed Object 008. It takes some effort to summon the projection of the Kingdom of God that covers a city. But if you take shortcuts, it will be easier to present the projection of the Kingdom of God in the dream world. The Fool strings together dreams about the area surrounding the abandoned factory. This is the dream of the patient, and also the dream of the citizens of Tingnan. In the dream, the blue and black hair stretched out like a net, turning the dream maze into a suitable carrier for the projection of the Kingdom of God to descend. Above the gray fog of the Fourth Era, the fantasy characteristics in the dream stealer's body were quickly digested. He had already made preparations for the bug. After the fantasy power in his body disappeared, he would enter the world in the book again, absorb another fantasy power, and then come above the gray fog. Through the special features above the gray fog, the connection between the natural disasters in the book world and the Aquaman in the real world is maintained. In the city hall, on the left wall, new murals keep appearing. The deep blue tentacles begin to advance the story at both ends of the mural at the same time, skipping the blank mural in the middle, affecting the real world of the Fourth Age on one hand, and the story of Tingnan City in the Fifth Age on the other. Occasionally, dragon roars could be heard in the palace. A suburb of Tingnan. In a room with red bacon. An ordinary feather pen was writing something on the notebook by itself. Tonight is destined to be a long night. The automated resurrection method left behind by an ancient god was switched to manual mode. Then everything must be done through exploration and experimentation to move forward in Tingnan City. After piecing together a small piece of the dream, the Fool begins to micro-manipulate, and a gray-white, extremely tall and majestic palace emerges in his dream. This was what the City of Miracles looked like to him. The Fool pushes open the door and walks into the hall. Inside the palace, he sees the elf Scourge, with blue hair, pointed ears, pale skin, and hair that spreads like tentacles and entangles the stone pillars of the palace. This is the dream image woven by the extraordinary ability of the Dreamweaver. The Fool snaps his fingers, and the Fool's path recorded on the card of blasphemy switches to the Tyrant's path. He changes from a fool to a tyrant holding a scepter. Tyrant and Elf Scourge merge, and the image of Elf Scourge gradually becomes real. Shah-Ir moved his arms and looked into the illusory eyes that appeared in front of him. The hidden sage glanced at the Elf Scourge, and his illusory eyes gradually faded. Shah-Ir then looked at the murals on the left and right sides of the palace. There were things he didn't know, and the murals didn't show the corresponding content. Ale Suhad, sure, called out the Nightmare Dragon's real name in the Dream Palace. The Sealed Object 008, the pen of Alisuhad, traveled through dreams and jumped directly into the hands of Shale. The Fourth Age. On the mural in the Hall of Honesty, Shah-Ir personally drew the scene of Sealed Object 008 falling into his hands. The past drives the future. The Fifth Era, sure, holds the Sealed Object 008. He didn't have anything special in mind. This is a seal with activity. It's abnormal that it doesn't have the ability to move quickly. As long as you grasp the source, as long as you represent, Grossel's travels. Even in Backlund, if you call out the name of this pen, it will find a way to come here on its own. What about Ince Zangwill? Shah thought of the courier and felt that Mr. Fool should have a complete childhood. You play with him. Shah tapped the quill in his hand. Sealed object 008 shook. A building with red bacon somewhere. An ordinary feather pen was held in the crow's beak and landed on the desk by the window where the sealed object 008 was originally located. Shah held the sealed artifact 008 and began to weave together more dreams of Tingen City. Now just pull the City of Miracles over and the quill will come back to life. It doesn't have to be in Tingen. Who doesn't design a plan quickly, accurately and ruthlessly? Why do you restrict the area and just make trouble for yourself? The City of Miracles is, of course, in the ocean of collective unconsciousness. Where there is thinking, there is the ocean of collective unconsciousness. Shah's mouth curled up. He was not in a hurry to run away. At the most basic level, everyone's consciousness is actually connected and integrated. The collective unconscious ocean is conceptual. The consciousness in every soul is making certain exchanges with the sea of collective subconsciousness. Normally, if you want to find the City of Miracles, you must first find Grossel's Travels. After finding this travelogue, you can find the location of the City of Miracles through the consciousness of the thinking creatures in the travelogue. In the Fourth Age, Shah was still inside the City of Miracles, and Shah's consciousness was always interacting with the area where the City of Miracles was located. There is no need to look for Shah, he is the gateway to the City of Miracles. As long as he thought, the channel would appear naturally, and the sealed object 008 would be naturally transmitted from his consciousness to the City of Miracles. Then help Mr. Fool and complete this coming-of-age ceremony. Shah took 008 and began to paint in his dream. He wanted to include all the important areas in the dream, and when necessary, the dream would cover the reality. Backlund. Wednesday, August 15th. Nearly a month of Praise the Goddess. The secret prayer potion in Shah's body had long been completely digested. After he digested the potion, he applied to Bishop Electra for promotion to Sequence 8 inches listener. How did you manage to master the power of the potion so quickly? Although the bishop knew how to act, he was still shocked by Shah's digestion speed. It will take Daly at least a year to digest the previous genius. Because of the goddess, blessing. I pray to the goddess sincerely every day, and my spirit is becoming more stable. Shah drew a crimson moon on his chest. He is a clergyman, and in his free time he also has to work part-time receiving believers in the church. If one prays every day and prays secretly, wouldn't his digestion be faster? Bishop Electra approved this reason because it was indeed impeccable. I can help you submit a special application for early promotion. But you have to understand that listeners are special and may even hear the voices of hidden beings. This will put you in great danger. Your activities will be restricted until you are promoted to Sequence 7. Bishop Electra still hoped that Shah would give up the promotion and stay at Sequence 9 forever. I am not afraid. The goddess will protect me. If I could hear the goddess' voice, I think it would be a gentle whisper. Shah's expression was as determined as an ascetic. No one would reject a devout believer of the goddess. Normally, your request would not be approved, but Chinese Gate does need some researchers to take charge of some basic work. Bishop Electra said somewhat helplessly. Chapter 97 I am watching over the angel. Guarding the gate of Chinese is actually a tough job. The power of Chinese Gate will corrode the body of anyone who gets close to it. If the body is corroded for a long time, it will be assimilated by the power of Chinese Gate and will be unable to stay away from Chinese Gate for the rest of its life. Behind the Chinese Gate, the sealed objects needed to be studied, the extraordinary materials needed to be sorted out, and all kinds of mysterious knowledge and potion formulas needed to be properly kept. These also require people with sufficient qualities and knowledge to be responsible. There are actually not that many researchers in the church, and this is to some extent a high-risk profession. The Nighthawks do not necessarily encounter dangerous supernatural events every time. Researchers are working on something that is sealed within the Chinese Gate. Dangerous, unfree, restricted. Bishop Electra had made it very clear, but Shah-Ir still wanted to upgrade the sequence. Shah-Ir actually didn't understand the bishop's worries. He commanded listeners to stay behind the gate of Chanis to prevent themselves from hearing the whispers of the evil god. This is understandable, but the listener's high sensitivity means that the listener is destined to be very sensitive to danger and more vulnerable. So, in Shah-Ir's view, he was just changing his duty station. Others are unwilling to work in dark, cold places with no signal. He can go. In that case, you will swear to the goddess, holy emblem later that you will not reveal the secret of the acting method. What else could Bishop Electra say when he saw that Shale was willing to endure hardships? Acting. Shah-Ir blinked. When did he say he could play the role of Fa? It's a meditation method that you figured out on your own, where you pray to the goddess and your spirit is soothed. The bishop hinted with a slight cough. He hoped that Shah-Ir could get through the listener stage as soon as possible. It is recorded in church documents that if normal listeners are not promoted for a long time, they will easily die. Sequence 7, the hermit, is actually safer than Sequence 8, the listener. Oh, I see. With the bishop's guidance, Shah-Ir figured out the acting method on his own. Then swear an oath. You have a good understanding. There are not many people in the church who can understand the method of acting on their own. The bishop emphasized the words, self-understanding. Shah-Ir twitched the corner of his mouth and swore that he would never reveal the acting method on his own initiative. After returning to his office, he chatted with Senior Gray for a few more words. Senior Gray was obviously reluctant to let Shah-Ir go, and said that she would definitely wait for him to come out, which made Shah-Ir feel like he was in prison. Shah-Ir invited her to work behind Chanis's door, but the woman shook her head and refused to go. He smiled and continued to deal with the work at hand. The church's approval came quickly. In the inventory of the Church of Evernight, the extraordinary materials related to the secret praying people were previously left to gather dust. Now there is a stock clearance, and the materials were found by Shah-Ir himself behind Chanis gate. He simply prepared the potion and looked at the black, bubbling substance in his hand. Shah-Ir just thought it was coke. Come with me. After Bishop Electra saw that Shah-Ir had prepared the potion, she took him to a smaller room underground, which looked like it was used to store something. You can take the potion here. After I'm here, the room will be sealed to ensure that you don't hear any noises you shouldn't hear when you're promoted. If you lose control, then I will pray for you with my own hands. The bishop glanced at Shah-Ir, left the room, activated the corresponding ritual, and with the help of the power of the Chanis gate, closed the room. Are you treating me as a sealed object? Shah-Ir looked around. This room, which was smaller than a bathroom, was probably used to store sealed objects. He shook the potion in his hand. The temperature inside the Chanis gate was lower, and the potion was now cold. When Shah-Ir came over, he could still see invisible black threads slowly eroding spiritual things. Drink it in one gulp. The cold potion pierced into his abdomen. The room prepared by the Church of Evernight for the sealed objects was very useful. Shah-Ir's perception was also suppressed, and during the general ascension, he did not hear the rap of the true creator. Everyone who listens can gain some unique abilities from the corresponding great being. Shah-Ir thought about the turning paper into usefulness he learned from the fool, or the gray fog space, and the wizard spells from the hidden sage. What can the goddess of night provide? Not sleeping. Midnight wolf. Disturbing someone's sweet dreams. He planned that if he needed the ability to enter dreams in the future, he would say it was a gift from the goddess of night. After briefly organizing the knowledge contained in the potion, Bishop Electra also opened the room. He noticed that Shah-Ir seemed a little distracted, and the worry in his heart subsided a little. He was afraid of seeing Shah-Ir lose control or act like nothing happened. I mean, it's best not to actively use the listening ability in the future. The most dangerous stage has been passed, the bishop reminded again. Shah-Ir nodded, but there was actually nothing good to say. It's possible that he wouldn't understand. After all, he had never learned Russian. It would be better if he used the ancient Fasak language. Your future work will be easy too. It's just a simple inspection. Inspect certain rooms. The bishop motioned for Shal-Ir to follow him. He continued to walk down the stairs with Shal-Ir. Shal-Ir didn't think much of it at first, until he felt the pressure of the Chinese gate getting greater the further he went down. Then he looked at the bishop in shock. He was a newly promoted Sequence 8, and was heading to where the Level 1 sealed objects were gathered. Isn't this impolite? Your daily task is to regularly pass through Sealed Artifact 1 to 29 and observe whether the interior of Sealed Artifact 1 to 80 is intact. After completing this task, you can borrow some books to pass the time. Bishop Electra brought Shar to the bottom floor. It was big, but there wasn't much stuff in it. The ground was covered with runes symbolizing the stars and the moon, and all the facilities served the rooms inside. Is that all I need to do? Shal-Ir didn't know what expression to make. This was different from the duty room he had imagined. Ask him to keep an eye on Mother Heaven, and report to her at any time. He reported it with his head. Why let him do this job? Is he a secret praying person? That's fine. Isn't it just shift work? Then take shift work. Under the guidance of the bishop, Shal-Ir moved closer to 1 to 29, which looked like a crystal ball. Through the crystal ball, Seal 1 to 80 was observed, a colorful bubble. The inside of the bubble could not be seen clearly, so Shal-Ir turned up the inspiration a little and saw a young woman with black hair. She was beautiful and had no expression. She was sleeping quietly inside, like a living angel. Chapter 98, 1 month absence. The Church of Darkness actually let him look after a level 0 sealed artifact and 2 level 1 sealed artifacts. Shal-Ir didn't know how to respond to this heavy trust. Are they really not afraid that Shal-Ir will follow Ince Zangwill's example and defect with Mother of Heaven? Is this appropriate? Shal-Ir turned his head and looked at Bishop Electra in the distance. Isn't this inappropriate? This is not about looking at a reservoir, this is about looking at a nuclear arsenal. You are not alone. There will be a senior Nighthawk to guide you. Bishop Electra signaled with his eyes that Shal-Ir should follow the old man beside him. This is still the tradition of the Church of Evernight for the old to lead the new. The one in charge of leading Shal-Ir is a senior old-time night watcher who could not get rid of the influence of Channis's gate all his life. The hooded old man took Shal-Ir away from the area where the 3 superimposed sealed objects were located. He said in a somewhat muddy voice, "You don't hear those dangerous sounds here." Shal-Ir was speechless. He took the initiative to start listening, and was actually able to hear the voice of Mother Sky. But normal listeners certainly cannot hear the voice of this servant of secrets. Because it's too dangerous here, so I can't hear any danger sounds, right? Shal-Ir still planned to show some resistance. After all, what if, one day the goddess of night descends upon the woman inside and wants to go out for a walk? As the newly appointed security guard Xiao Sha, who is highly respected by the church, will Shal-Ir stop her or not? Will he report it or not? The initial negative effect of touching these 2 sealed objects may be amnesia. If you get lost, you will sink into a dream and be unable to wake up. The hooded old man explained. Isn't the dream demon just right? They often act out in their dreams at night. Because sometimes the dream world conflicts with the real world, they become almost amnesiac, thinking that they did something in reality when in fact they did it in the dream world. Aren't they more suitable for the job? Shal-Ir felt like looking at this stronger night demon. These are 2 sealed objects. The negative effect of one sealed object is amnesia, and the negative effect of another sealed object may cause the person who comes into contact with it to enter a dream world where reality and illusion coexist. Once the person cannot distinguish between reality and dreams, he may get lost. The nightmare is indeed a more suitable guardian. Although they may not be able to tell the difference sometimes, at least they are more experienced. The nightmares have become the backbone of the church. Your inspiration is high enough, and the listener's perception will also allow you to better discern the environment. Besides, other nightmares won't stay here forever, but you'll have to stay here for a long time. The old man explained it simply. It is always good to have one more person on duty. Moreover, if Shah-Ir wants to advance to the next sequence, it will take at least 3 months, or perhaps even longer, and he will have to stay with them underground for a long time. Since I have to spend most of my time behind the Chinese door anyway, why not cover for other colleagues? Shah-Ir pursed his lips. Isn't it just a shift? Seeing that the Church of Darkness would provide Sequence 7 potions for free. It's not unacceptable. Just take a walk every day and check whether the sealed object is abnormal, and that's it. Now that I have become a hermit, I don't have to live in a church, right? Just in case, Shah-Ir asked specifically. Of course, once you digest the potion and complete your promotion you can return to your normal life. The old man glanced at Shah-Ir and shook his head. Young people are still too impetuous. It's impossible to get promoted so quickly. 1 month later, after Shah-Ir digested the listener potion, he was promoted to Sequence 7 Hermit and said goodbye to his old senior. Although the accommodation in the church is not bad, why should I live in the company dormitory when I have my own place to live? The old man's eyes, which used to be somewhat stiff, were now much more flexible. He looked at Shah-Ir in disbelief. Don't be surprised. That's what genius looks like. It only takes 99% of the goddess, favor and 1% of talent. Shah-Ir said with a smile. He is a genius, a peerless genius that the Church of Night sees once in 1,000 years. How do you digest so quickly? The Night Watchman, who was elevated to the realm of demigod, was even wondering at this moment whether it was his daily communication with him that facilitated his acting progress. Because I really listened carefully. Learning to listen to others' opinions is a basic quality for a missionary. Shah-Ir suppressed the upward curve of his lips. He just acted out the role in advance. You can go now, said the night watchman with a twitching face. Of course he knew the reason was not some so-called talent. Every day, Shah-Ir would listen to the noise-reduced sounds inside the Chinese gate, through the seal of the church. When I was away from Chinese gate, I was at St. Samuel's Cathedral to receive believers and patiently listen to their needs. Answer their questions, assist other bishops in completing sermons, listen to the hymns at night, and listen to the prayers of believers. Although the Church of Evernight restricts the range of activities of the listener, it is certainly possible to move around in the church. Which low-sequence body can withstand staying behind the gate of Chinese for 24 hours a day? Shah-Ir's actual actions are here. No one in the Church of Evernight thought that digesting the Sequence 8 potion required listening to the whispers of the evil god. This is just a Sequence 8. Shah-Ir also successfully achieved the achievement, leading Mr. Fool by 2 sequences and establishing an ecological contempt chain between Sequence 7 and Sequence 9. He stepped into Mr. Fool's kingdom of God in a good mood. After trying to control his shadow to press the switch of the toilet, he quietly waited for the call from a hidden existence. 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Above the gray fog, Shah-Ir has missed many tarot meetings. In any case, after the gate of Chinese, participating in the tarot club is somewhat disrespectful to the Orthodox Church. When I returned to this mysterious space again. New member, son, Derek thought there was a new member. Mr. Angel, long time no see. Justice, Audrey's eyes lit up when she saw the angel. She had almost thought that the angel would not come because of his absence so many times before, and she was sad for a long time. I always feel that the tarot club is somewhat incomplete without Mr. Angel. Mr. Angel, son, Derek looked over and felt that Angel was something special, just a code name. Both the Fool and the Hanged Man are observing. The former thought about kicking the angel out, but was worried that if he cut off the connection completely and lost his influence, the other party would reveal the existence of the tarot club and the information of some of its members, causing unnecessary impact. The latter was thinking that the angel had just shown her loyalty to Mr. Fool and took the initiative to accept Mr. Fool's gift, and then she has been absent ever since. Mr. Fool did not punish the angel either. Was he sending the angel to complete some secret mission? Hello, little son, I am an angel. Long time no see. Due to the role-playing requirements, it was not convenient for me to attend the tarot club before. Now I can finally relax for a while. Shah-Ir leaned comfortably on the back of the bronze chair, looking quite relaxed. The fool, who was about to lean back, gave up the idea, silently folded his hands on the table, and changed his posture. Chapter 99 Not Qualified. Role-playing required. Has Mr. Angel been trying hard to act and digest the potion for the past month? So he has been promoted one level. Audrey felt a sense of urgency when she realized that she was still at sequence 9. Not only Audrey, but even Klein, who was almost done digesting the fortune-teller's potion and waiting to be promoted to the clown, felt something strange in the angel's heart. While we were in the meeting, you were secretly studying outside, right? Shah-Ir didn't say anything, but looked at the son, Derek opposite him. Miss Justice, who was in spectator mode, understood and took the initiative to introduce the two people. Mr. Sun, this is Mr. Angel. Mr. Angel, this is our new member of the Tarot Club, codenamed Sun. After the two of them briefly greeted each other, Audrey thought about what the Sun had introduced, and explained to the Angel. Mr. Angel, Mr. Sun told us that the audience path originated from the Dragon Path, and he came from a place called Silver City. In the past, under the rule of the Giant King's court, dragons and giants were mortal enemies, so he controlled the audience path sequence 9. Sequence 7 Potion Formula. Have you heard of the City of Silver? Audrey looked at the Angel with some anticipation. She wanted to know last time, but Mr. Fool had no intention of revealing it. Hearing the question about justice, the Fool and the Hanged Man also looked over calmly. Silver City. I've only heard of the Silver Kingdom. The counterpart is the Golden Kingdom that believes in the Giant King, Almir. The current Fasak Empire may be the descendants of the giants of the former Golden Kingdom. Shah-Ir answered with his pitiful knowledge of humanities. The City of Silver was established by the survivors of the Silver Country. Mr. Angel, have you heard of the Kingdom of Gold and the Kingdom of Silver? The son Derek raised his head in surprise. After Mr. Fool, the Tarot Club finally had another person who knew something about their City of Silver. Mr. Angel, have you heard of the Kingdom of Gold and the Kingdom of Silver? Justice, Audrey asked with equal interest. Of course, the current Fasak Empire may be inhabited by descendants of the giants of the former Golden Kingdom. If you knew them, you would know this. Shah-Ir warned a few Loan people and said, I have indeed heard that the blood of giants flows in the Fasak Empire. Alger nodded and said, Mr. Angel, what is the Fasak Empire you are talking about? Son, Derek asked excitedly. He understood that the root of the word Fasak was a variant of giant, and the meaning of descendant of giant was also very clear. Your giant accent is interesting. Shah-Ir said with a slight curl of his lips. The corner of Klein the Fool's mouth twitched slightly. He knew that the angel could definitely speak giant language and did not need any additional translation from the gray mist space. This guy could even recognize the local accent. Giant. Mr. Sun speaks giant. Audrey was stunned. Why didn't they hear it? No, how could they understand it? Alger glanced at the Fool. This reminded him of the reader's path, the ability to understand language spells. Giant, the accents have their own evolution. Shah-Ir nodded. Could he, the listener, still be hard of hearing? Mr. Angel, can you hear it? Son, Derek nervously grasped the edge of the table with both hands. Of course I can hear it. Are you survivors of the cataclysm? Shah-Ir directly pointed out the cataclysm. A survivor of the catastrophe. Didn't the great cataclysm happen in the Third Age? Everyone was a little confused, especially Mr. Fool, who was the most confused among all the people present. The angel just kept talking nonsense, and the other members couldn't understand him anyway. Justice and the Hanged Man only pay attention to Mr. Fool's reaction. Since Mr. Fool does not speak, there should be a certain degree of credibility. And the Fool, he really didn't know how much he could trust the angel's judgment. Mr. Angel, you really do know. After that disaster, the omniscient and almighty Lord never responded to us again. The sky lost its light and fell into darkness. The Silver Country was also destroyed. The remaining strong men united together for survival. That's how we established the Silver City. Son, Derek revealed more information, and only then did he feel that he had come to the right place. He now even had a feeling that since Mr. Fool was a godlike being, then could Mr. Angel be a real angel. Otherwise, why would Mr. Fool agree to let him use such a code name? Miss Justice felt a little nervous after hearing this. What about the omniscient and omnipotent Lord, and the sky losing its light? It all sounded epic. Alger frowned. He had no idea where the sun was. How did the angel know where it was? Mr. Fool's smile was even more stiff, and he was trying hard to reduce his presence. Shouldn't this be his relaxing and enjoyable diary time? Why did things start to get out of his control? I think I know. Shaw nodded thoughtfully. Since the sun said so, let alone him, even if a vampire baron who likes to study history came here, he would basically understand the general situation. What do you know? How much do you know? Mr. Fool took a deep breath. At this moment, he wanted to kick Angel out of the group chat. Anyway, it's easy to find reasons, whether it's an unfortunate death, a supernatural loss of control, betrayal of the organization, involvement in a supernatural incident. But he was reluctant to give up the knowledge that the angel possessed. And the angel knows enough, has a strong sense of self-awareness, likes to make his own judgments, and rarely asks him questions. Mr. Angel, do you know why the Lord doesn't respond to us? If you know, please tell me. We in Silver City will definitely give you a reward that satisfies you. There was even a hint of pleading in Derek's voice. I'm sorry, but you're not qualified to discuss this with me right now. Shaw was silent for a moment, then shook his head and said. Audrey could notice that the sun's emotions fluctuated violently, with disappointment, reluctance, and confusion. She felt a little sympathetic, but didn't know what to say. She couldn't help the sun either. Alger glanced at Mr. Fool out of habit. Seeing that Mr. Fool didn't say anything, he instantly understood that Mr. Fool also knew it. No, it should be said. Mr. Fool knows something, so he brought the sun here. The fool sitting in the top seat was almost speechless. When the angel says something, you have to look at me. Can you learn from the angels, and make your own judgments when you encounter problems? Chapter 100 The So Calmness. The ruthless words of the angel made the atmosphere in the field become somewhat silent. The fool feels that he cannot continue watching and must do something, so he thinks quickly. Klein relaxed his facial expression, chuckled, and said in a casual tone. Don't be discouraged. Don't forget the code name you chose, and your original intention. You are the sun at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. The son Derek was stunned when he heard this, and then looked up at Mr. Fool. The other three also looked at the fool. The fool looks at the 4 pairs of eyes staring at him in unison. He tries his best to look relaxed, but in his heart he begins to scream like a groundhog. Where are the audience? Speak up. Didn't you see the audience is in a lull? Help. Mr. Fool is right, Mr. Sun, you also heard that Mr. Angel said, now. As long as you continue to work hard to improve your sequence, I believe you will have a chance to get an answer from Mr. Angel or Mr. Fool. Justice, Audrey smiled gently and comforted, little son. She actually wanted to know the answer, and Mr. Fool's attitude was encouraging, which meant that she could use Russell's diary to exchange for the answer from Mr. Fool in the future. After she knows, she can tell, little son. Although I don't know what concerns Mr. Angel has, but since Mr. Fool has encouraged me, there shouldn't be any problem. Thank you, Mr. Fool, Ms. Justice. Derek the son can pull himself together. He even thought that if he was not qualified, then the chief should be qualified. Mr. Fool's attitude now clearly shows that he is more looking forward to his growth. He will not let Mr. Fool down. Mr. Angel, I will try my best. Young Derek was full of fighting spirit at this time. I trust you. You are the one I like most in the Tarot Club. Shaw encouraged while holding back his laughter. He is indeed the most optimistic about the future of little son. The angel's words were too direct. After hearing them, Derek lost all his fighting spirit and lowered his head in shame, not knowing how to face this situation. The hanged man next to him didn't care about such words to coax children. The fool continues to be a spectator. Apart from feeling that the angel's tone is a bit like coaxing a child, he doesn't care at all. Miss Justice next to Sha'ir heard it more clearly and pouted slightly. The audience member could tell that the angel really thought so. She was more or less unhappy and couldn't help but glance at the angel. Little son is very good, but is she not good? Look, I'm useless. He has something you don't have at all. Sha'ir was not polite at all and directly pointed out her thoughts. What do I not have? What is it? Audrey was confronted so directly that she was a little unconvinced, but she asked out of curiosity. Have you ever suffered? Sha'ir did not answer, but just asked in return. Audrey was sunk directly. Derek secretly raised his head, then secretly lowered it again. Alger raised the corner of his mouth, coughed lightly and said, Mr. Fool, I collected 2 pages of Russell's diary this time. Klein the fool waved his hand and tacitly ignored the angel. Although it was not said, everyone still had some special emotions towards rich people, like Miss Justice. If it weren't for Miss Justice, who was young, beautiful, had a nice voice, and was rich, she would have been subject to some ridicule. Now that the angel has dealt a small blow, everyone is actually happy to see it. Mr. Fool, I also have 2 pages of Russell's diary, Audrey said after she recovered. As she spoke, she gave the angel a resentful look. She knew that Mr. Angel was deliberately attacking her, but she had no choice because she was the one who asked the question. But after handing in the diary, she couldn't help but ask in a low voice. Mr. Angel, have you ever suffered? No. Sha'ir shook his head. He had reached sequence 2 just by playing around. How could he endure such hardship? Oh. Miss Justice said, oh, and her eyes softened as she looked at the angel. The fool pretends not to hear anything and waits for the angel to hand in the diary. However, the angel did not respond at all. You don't have any questions for me, so you didn't collect diaries, right? The fool is not an audience, but he somehow understands. In fact, not only the fool, but even Justice and the hanged man almost understand it. The angel never asked anything at the tarot club, never collected potion formulas, never collected potion materials. But this does not prevent him from improving his sequence. What does this mean? This means that the angels don't need to help with small things, and they can't help with big things. He himself has a strong background. Klein said nothing about this and continued to maintain his mysterious attitude. It would be best if the angels did not ask him questions. He began to read the diary. On the first page, the emperor's wife is pregnant, the emperor's eyes turn green, the emperor's maid becomes excited, and the emperor is seduced by a passionate countess. Keep reading. Adjacent paths can replace knowledge, such as the Universalist of the Church of the God of Steam and Machinery, and the Secret Peeper of the Moss Ascetic Order. Participate in a mysterious organization, the hostile relationship between the Orthodox Church, and see the blasphemous slate. Of course, Sha'ir could also guess what the fool was thinking. But he was also desperate. The patient was poor. If he handed in his diary, he would have to act with Mr. Fool and could only ask questions he knew the answers to. He might even have to hint at the answers and ask him to tell him. So it would be better for him not to hand in his diary at all. One of them didn't want to ask questions, and the other didn't want to answer, and they reached a tacit understanding. You can start communicating now. The fool put away the diary and said, even though they had just communicated. Mr. Angel, I received news that Vice Admiral Hurricane Keelingos secretly went ashore and infiltrated Backlund. I have entrusted Miss Justice to help me investigate the news. But he is a Sailor Path Sequence 6 Beander, and he also possesses a powerful sealed artifact. Miss Justice is not suitable to deal with him. If you are in Backlund, or if it is convenient, can you provide some assistance? Alger looked at the angel and asked. He had asked Mr. Fool, but Mr. Fool's followers didn't seem to be in Backlund. Hurricane Lieutenant General. Can the creeping hunger be eaten? Shah-Ir licked his lips. Mr. Angel, this great pirate has a very evil seal in his hand. It devours the flesh and soul of a living person every day. Mr. Sun speculates that this seal may be related to the shepherd. Justice, Audrey helped introduce. Of course, she hoped that the angel could cooperate with her and bring this evil pirate general to justice. For more thrilling fanfiction stories like this, check out my channel Fanfic Audiobook. Dive into epic adventures, mysterious realms, and legendary journeys brought to life through immersive storytelling. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing audiobooks.